Welcome to the Wednesday, August 7th, 2024 meeting of the Gloucester Conservation Commission. The time is just after 5:30. As amendments to the open meeting law allow, the Conservation Commission may continue to hold meetings remotely. Adequate alternative access to the meetings is provided through the Zoom link. Please continue to check the updated city calendar and posted agendas for upcoming meeting location and login information. We will start with a roll call of commissioners. Member Charpentier.
Here.
Member Cook.
Here.
Member Gradwell. Member Sargent.
Here.
Member Materi.
Here.
Member Bella. And Member Jackson. Right, so we do have a quorum.
All set to start?
Yes, so.
Okay, item number 1 is the administrative briefing. Chuck, do you have anything to add to that?
I do not. I guess there is. Let's see, we did have one late continuation that did not make it onto the most recent agenda. Try to find that.
Which is that one?
That'll be for 028-2976, 171 and 281 rear Magnolia Avenue. They have continued, requested to continue to the meeting of August 21st, 2024.
Okay.
Looks like Commissioner Bella is here.
Okay, then Rob can take over.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened to but it wouldn't work. I had to go back door. Okay, so have we done anything yet, or?
Public comment period starting.
We did do it, or?
Nope, we have to do it.
All right. So this is good evening, everybody. This is a meeting of the Gloucester Conservation Commission. First, we obviously went through a couple of items. Next up would be the public comment period. This is the period where people in the public are welcome to speak towards conservation issues that are not, I repeat, not on tonight's agenda. If you wish to speak, you can by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen, or hitting *9 on your phone or a handheld device.
We currently have 27 attendees, and there are no hands up at this time.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, I will close the public comment period. Next up would be minutes for review and approval. We obviously have enough people here to move it, so you want to put that up?
Yep. Yeah, Charpentier moves to approve the Conservation Commission meeting minutes of the July 17th, 2024 meeting.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
Call Member Charpentier.
Yes.
Member Cook.
Yes.
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Materi.
Yes.
Member Bella.
Yes. Okay. Now we are basically going, I think, Chuck, do you want to deal with emergency certificates next?
Sure. Yeah, so we have folks here that can kind of provide updates as to the work that is occurring on each of these. 2 of them are new and will need to be ratified or amended and ratified. Those are the second 2. The first one was ratified last meeting. But Marcy Pregent is here to update us on 115 to 121 East Main Street. Let me find her here.
All right.
Promoting now.
Marcy?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep. Name and address for the record.
Yes, hi. So I wanted to provide you an update on the emergency certificate. Smith Marine has been out there doing the work. They started a little later than anticipated, but with the they were working on the low tides only to be able to do the work. They were able to do a portion of the work. and they gave me an update today because they just finished yesterday as to what they were able to complete. So they were able to complete bents 6, 8, and 10. They installed 12 by 12 timber cap beams, which were supported by a piling on each side, as you can see in the picture. They installed 2 stringers end cap beams on each end of the concrete of the pier. He didn't tell me the exact location. They installed blocking, some short stringers, which are more of a kind of a temporary solution, I believe. Let's see, they did a full concrete repair at bend 5 with rebar to that column, and they replaced 1 fender. They also secured the gangway platform with better fasteners, washers. That was all rotted, he said. And this was all necessary for this portion was obviously necessary because per Lisa O'Donnell, prevent any collapsing. What they did not get to is from bent 5 back towards the ground. So they weren't able to get to it due to the tides. So we still need to do that work. And I just got updated from Lisa, who has not actually done a site review as of yet. We're going to plan to do one after I talked to her about this meeting today. She is requesting, if I could request from you, to be able to do, to get some sort of extension, if we could, to do the bent 4 back. Smith had to leave the job. They were pulled off for an emergency someplace else that they had contracted because they had got a late start to begin with. So we feel as though she said from the ground, from the concrete, the bent 4 and back, she feels maybe we can get to by not accessing the water, but she does feel though an update, and I did send it last minute to Chuck, her recap of everything. Bent 2 is in risk of collapsing. So she does want to still be able to do that as part of the emergency repair if allowed. So if you have any questions, I'll do my best. I'm not an expert, but I can always have Chuck forward you the email that she gave me, the little summary. She does want the opportunity as well to go back out and make sure some of the stringers are long enough. They said there were some issues, maybe that a couple of them they couldn't get to, have to be long enough. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, Marcy, this is the chair, Rob Gullah. If you could just give your name and address for the record.
Yes, Marcia Pregin, 28 Way Road, Gloucester, Mass. 01930.
Excellent, thank you. So next up would be is to do roll call commissioner comments. Just let us, we'll say all our concerns if there are any, and at the end you can respond to them if needed.
Okay.
Member Charpentier,
No comments.
Member Cook,
The only comment I have is we do have to grant an extension if we're allowed to, and then how long an extension do they want?
Member Sergeant.
Yeah, I think this may be to Chuck. If the work they've done now, does that alleviate the emergency, and should they be coming in for NOI for all of this additional work? I'm not familiar with the scope of the emergency work, and if the additional work they're asking is within that scope of the emergency certificate, or if they really should be coming in for an NOI. Thank you.
Member Viteri.
Yeah, the question is how much longer the emergency work will take. I'll note on our agenda, it says the emergency certificate is valid until August 6th, but the certificate that was issued is has an end date of August 16th. So there's still, a little bit more than a week left to do the repairs until they would need an extension. If it can be done in a week, I don't think we really need to do anything, but if it's going to take longer than that, then we should discuss whether there needs to be an extension if we're even allowed to grant an extension.
Okay, Chuck, what do you want? Do you have any final comments to guide us on this?
Yeah, I did mistakenly put the wrong end date for that. So yes, it is still valid for another week yet. So I guess depending on what the timeline is for that work, the thing with the emergency certificates, they are only valid for 30 days. I don't believe that you can do an extension on those. So I guess if work is going to need to continue beyond another week, I guess it would be up to the commission to decide if, they would allow this work to continue, but maybe do a after the fact NOI, or wrap this continued work into the NOI that they're going to be proposing for the larger scale work that they're going to be planning after they get this initial work done.
Can you issue a new emergency certificate on the 17th for another 30 days?
I'll have to check on that. We haven't had that happen before, so.
Okay, well, why don't I'm always in favor of getting as much work done as we can. I think it's anything that bad can happen kind of thing. So I don't know about the rest of you, but I think I would allow them to at least use up that final week to get as much as they can at this time. And then regroup after that. Maybe Chuck can oversee it and just not oversee it, but check in and see if it's get destabilized. If it gets worse, obviously we'll have to give another emergency cert for some reason. But I think at this point, it might make sense just to let them work through the remainder of what they have in terms of the ability to keep moving forward under the other enforcement emergency cert. Anyone have any other ideas, or is that the play?
Well, what happens after that emergency cert expires?
Chuck?
Well, I'll check in and see if if there is a way to do another emergency certification. Otherwise, as I said, if you guys are comfortable with the work continuing, and they may have to just file for an after the fact NOI for that continued work.
Yeah, I think that's the only real option we have here. Yes.
Yeah.
That sounds like a plan.
Ms.
Yeah, I
Friedman?
mean,
Oh,
this
go ahead.
work is, this work is only supposed to achieve, stabilization, temporary stabilization. So I guess the question is how much is left until they need to do that, and then they have to come in for an NOI anyway.
Right. So Marcy, what do you? How do you feel about this, Ms. Friedman? We're looking at letting you use the rest of the time, but then we're gonna have to go into a after the fact notice of intent, or something maybe even sooner. But what do you think?
Okay, so there was a couple questions, so I just want to address the questions that people had first.
Sure.
One is, I don't know the exact how much longer, so what I would like to have happen is have as quickly as Lisa, the engineer, can go out and take a look at what was done for the emergency cert to make sure it was done as she had asked for on the plan. The second question was it in the original scope of the emergency cert? Was everything completed? No, everything was not completed, and she did supply an email stating that Ben 2 is in risk of collapsing, so that's still part of the emergency cert, so she would like to complete that. So what she wasn't available for this call, but what she asked me to do is talk with you, see where your comfort level is, and we didn't know about this the 16th, so obviously we would love to use that time up, but I want to get her out there, look at Ben 2 or what was done, and make sure there's nothing else that was on the original emergency certificate that wasn't completed yet. So, and then maybe I can talk with Chuck and see either we can extend it and then also still file an after the fact, because in the email that she sent as well, we're continuing to evaluate the property and make sure that we're going to be going forward with the maintenance plan. So we will be doing a later on a notice of intent anyway, because John Judd is going to do analysis underneath the building to identify areas that we should work on this maintenance plan. So we are planning further work and we'll go through the proper channels. She just wants me to be able to complete the emergency of the at-risk area, which is still that she feels been two, I believe.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, yeah, I think that's the next step then. We'll let you do as much as you can do on the remainder of the time allowed. Please get as much as you can done. Obviously, it's, you know, you probably want it done as quick as we do. So, and keep in touch, clear touch with Chuck. And obviously document, you've done a good job, but please continue to document it with photos because it's helpful down the line when we have to revisit things if needed. With that, Chuck, do we need to memorialize this emergency cert?
This one was already approved at the last meeting, so this is just an update of the work that's happening.
Okay.
So yeah, Marcy, if you can just keep me posted on the amount of work left and what that timeline looks like,
Yes.
that would really help us figure out the best course of action on this.
Perfect. And if you read Lisa's email that I forwarded to you and you have any further questions for her, I'm gonna check her schedule and she has to do it based on the tides. We're gonna plan to meet out there hopefully by the end of the week because time is ticking. But then Smith is away, so I'd have to try and get somebody else in there. So we're just gonna, you know, meet and come up with a game plan and then I'll be right in touch with you. And we'll make pictures when we're out there to document exactly what's still at risk.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Next up, another emergency certification, EC 24-3, 37R Rogers Street, installation of a temporary shoring columns that stabilize concrete wharf surface, valid from 7/22 8/21 2024. Vito Gigaloni representing.
Vito is promoting now.
Can everyone hear me well? Because I got comments that people couldn't hear me at the last meeting. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, good. Mr. Gigaloni, your name and address for the record, please.
So he's still muted.
Unmute yourself if you can, sir.
I've got it. Sorry about that. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank-
Vito Giacalone, 4 Edgewood Road, Gloucester, Massachusetts.
Okay, so where are we with this?
So we've, Smith Marine, also same contractor that Marcy was using. It actually worked out for all of us. You get economy of scale by getting one mobilization and a bunch of projects getting done. We were anxious because this section, thank you, Chuck, for posting my pictures. These are today. And there were several pictures that I sent with the request for the EC that showed basically we needed to remove all of the concrete on a 65-foot section from the corner of the building. If you could go to that last slide, Chuck, yeah, from the corner of the building, everything from there out, you know, into the harbor was completely rebuilt. It started in 98. I think they completed in 2002, and we purchased the property in 2003. So those pilings, you know, that all the structural stuff on that property was totally redone after a catastrophic fire that they had there, and they lost the wharf and everything. So that was all rebuilt. But there's one section that we used to have these storage containers on it. They were there when we bought it. That literally we think the pilings, because they have the actual branch knots sticking out the side of them, are probably 100 years old. And unfortunately, the previous owners, they poured concrete on top of concrete, really put about 10 inches worth of concrete and rebar on it. And when we bought the property, we didn't have any real use for that, but we saw that that was something that we should never put any loading or weight on. This past winter, it got worse, and we removed all of the trailers that were actually sitting on steel I-beams, not fully supported by this, but the concrete itself began to sag. There were cracks in it. And we knew the only way to do that would be to get a demo crew to get it out of there, and using a barge is the safest way to do it. Happy to report, and I'm actually surprised, to be honest, that it went smooth. You see the sections of concrete stacked on the deck of the barge in that photo. That's all of it. Nothing fell. It was a little hairy there, but we did get some temporary supports just as the shoring that was described by Martel Engineering. We had him inspected. I wanted to make sure before we pulled any demolition permits that we were prepared to do it safely. So everything was done from top side. They then removed today almost all of the wood and stringers that were hanging down. Unfortunately, the stringers were in great shape. That's the floor joists of marine construction. They were solid oak, 4 inches wide, 10 inches thick, deep, but they were sitting on soft pile caps. They were almost totally disintegrated, and almost all of the support pilings were gone. So it's a good thing they had a thick slab there, because it was one big tabletop being held up by a handful of things. So we avoided disaster. And again, thank you, to Chuck and the building inspector for letting us get the emergency work completed. If that, there's one more view there, Chuck, where, yep, that one. So that slab is new, from my standards. It was done when the building was constructed back in 2000. So it's 24 years old already. That had not a crack in it, but with the weight, where they were all connected, with the weight of the sagging happening out in the middle of that 65-foot span, a stress crack began in the new concrete right at the corner of the building. So ideal, we've got things supported with temporary bracing right now. And I would ask permission. We have, I think, until the 21st on this emergency cert. We're not driving any pilings. We intend to do a rebuild in there, and we'll be going with, full-blown plans and getting certification with the surveyor to make sure that we do in-kind maintenance of our Chapter 91 license. We'll clear that with DEP and file a full, notice of intent when the time comes to rebuild. But on this emergency cert, to make sure that no further damage happens to that existing part of the building, we wanted to reinforce it by putting 4 total piles. I just want to take the opportunity. We replaced every, over a 2-year period, every fender pile in the building, in the premises. And we used up our 50 piles twice to do that. That 50 pile abbreviated permitting process that we had for years unfortunately expired. I know there's a movement. I know we own 3 properties now inside Harbor Cove, and we've signed that petition. It's sort of a no-brainer, of course, for the harbor and the waterfront property owners. I just wanted to put a plug in there. I couldn't think of, this would have been a perfect time for us to fill a full-blown, permit out, wait the timing after this emergency portion was, the danger of collapse is over now. We took care of that, but we would have been able to begin a rebuild project, because it's less than 50 piles in that whole project to fix it. What I'm asking is, could we put 4 piles in? 2 would go, say by eye, about 3 feet off the foundation wall. We would like to core drill 2 18-inch diameter holes. We had a professional concrete cutting company that for 2 days. We started on Monday, and tomorrow they'll be completed with everything, except if we were to put 4 piles in, they'll put almost exactly what Marcy showed for post-up, where there would be 1 pile that would be put through that existing slab. The other 2 piles would be almost like where fender piles would go. And then they would cut those and slide a brand new cap in, and do that twice. So those 2 would be more than enough, because everything beyond that is brand new. And we're asking, it would probably last on the temporaries, but we don't know how long it will take to get the engineers are very busy. We waited a couple of weeks to get Martel to give me the letter that we needed. So I can't imagine going through the proper process. It's probably going to take 90 days or more if we even expedite it. getting a DEP number and all. So I guess the ask is to stabilize that corner because we're keeping that part of the slab. And the building foundation is partially on it, and it's it's beyond just slightly beyond the head wall, which is granite and also not in great shape. So that's why we want to put, rather than rely on the wall in that point, is to have 4 piles, 2 for each new cap, and we'll be all set until we go through all the proper engineering and permitting.
Okay. Why don't we go, commissioners, any comments?
Carpenter,
No comment.
Member Cook,
No comments.
Member Sargent.
It almost looks like you're looking for a permanent solution, and the temporary bracing has already been done. And as Commissioner Viteri said, the emergency cert is only to make sure that things don't fall down.
Member Viteri,
No comments.
Member Villa.
Yeah, I would echo what both commissioners. I just get nervous. We want to make sure we're getting stabilization first before we get into any more plan work. I agree with Mr. Sargent on that. So let's make sure it's stable. If it's stable, we can potentially talk other things. But right now we have a large agenda. So let me see what the Chuck has to add.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, as was mentioned, the emergency cert is for, kind of stabilizing unsafe conditions. That being said, if you start seeing an issue arise because this work hasn't happened yet, before you have a chance to file the full NOI and all that stuff, certainly bring it back to our attention and
Yeah, so what I'm hearing, I guess, Mr. Vigiloni, is that please first make sure you're stable, and then once you're stable, get a plan in place that we can review. If you're stable, I'm not sure we want you to be drilling and coring stuff at this time. I think we want a plan in place. Okay, sir?
Could I respond, Chuck?
Yep, you can respond. Go.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So honestly, this is far from a permanent fix. Right now, what's holding it up is, if you've ever seen when they lift houses up, screw jacks. It's 4 inches square, and it has a heavy duty screw internal to it. And there's a chunk of pile that is sitting on a plate on top of the mud. And it's torqued up on the ends. We've got 3 of those in place. And that's all that's holding that up. And the slab is not made in itself to just have 1 point load or 2 point loads on that huge amount. So we're looking for these. We don't want to rely on the head wall because we want to repair that first. So this would not be the way we would reconstruct it at all. But we need to get a couple of pilings in that are going to actually hold that, because the building corner is dependent on it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, how do you feel about them adding those 4 piles?
I think this should be the building commissioner's call. He has more knowledge about this than we do.
Okay. Any other comments?
I don't, Commissioner, I think if they only have something temporarily holding it up and it's already starting to weaken, I think under the emergency cert, we should allow them to put the 4 columns in and the braces to support that corner, because it's already starting to have an impact. And by holding off, we're just allowing it to continue. It's going to take a long, like you said, maybe 90 days to get all the design work done for the permanent solution. But I think under the emergency cert, we should allow them to put the temporary columns in and brace that corner so there's no further damage.
Peter?
Yeah, whatever they need to do to stabilize it so that they can, keep the building or the rest of the pier or the dock from falling while they're implementing the long-term solution. I mean, I think that's what the emergency certificate is for.
Right. Okay, Linda, anything?
No, I concur, let's get it stable, put in the 4 pilings, and give them time to do the NOI that they need to do.
Okay, again, this is one of those, do we need to this one's already enacted, so we don't have to memorialize this either, correct, Chuck? Just
No, this one does need to be ratified. This one came in after the previous meeting, so you guys do need to
vote on it.
ratify what I had done or amend it and vote to ratify.
Okay,
Okay, Charpentier moves to approve the emergency certificate 24-03 37R Rogers Street with the aforementioned conditions of putting in the additional 4 pilings and preparing an NOI for the completion of the work.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
Yes.
Member Viteri,
Yes,
and Member Gullo.
yes. Okay, sir, you're all set. Well. from
Thank you
us.
very much.
for the
Alright.
time being.
All right, next up is one more emergency cert. We have EC 24-04 75 Essex Avenue, demolition and removal of a failed portion of the east wharf. It is valid through 7/29 to 8/28/24.
David Smith is joining us as a panelist.
Good evening, Commissioners. David Smith from GZA 144 Elm Street, Amesbury. Here representing the owners at Cape Ann Marina, 75 Essex Ave. The East Wharf is the area behind the fuel dock. If folks are familiar with that marina, it's an older pile-supported wharf that has basically timber piles supporting large steel beams running parallel to the shoreline and steel beam stringers running perpendicular, supporting precast concrete planks and a layer of gravel and bituminous pavement. So ironically enough, we're in the midst of designing and working and filing permit documents to replace this whole wharf structure. And we're very close to getting our first permits in place, or at least submitted. And then on July 13th, they had a partial wharf collapse where the precast planks that were supported on the steel stringers and the steel I-beam collapsed. The I-beam collapsed and everything kind of fell about 12 inches. So that happened around that weekend. I reached out to Chuck at the end of the following week that, we had to put together the document that we provided to the commission for the request for the emergency cert, and also in that short time frame, try to arrange to get a contractor on board. Chuck met me at the site on the 22nd, which was Monday, from that following Friday, and building inspector Harbor Master visited the site after our visit, and everyone agreed that needed to be resolved. So we in about 130-foot length of wharf that's about 20 feet wide, about 56 feet of it collapsed. So we got the emergency cert. Thank you, Chuck, for that, and the building inspector and harbor master for also agreeing. That effective date started the following week, and the contractor was on at the site early Monday, and basically that collapsed section of wharf was completed in about 3 days. The debris got taken up, put in dumpsters, and hauled off site. Siltation boom was placed in front of the wharf. And pretty much, the work has been completed. There's some very minor small bits of debris and crushed stone that's on the revetment below it, which the revetment's actually in pretty good shape. And there is a timber wharf structure that was adjacent to the northern end of the wharf that had collapsed, that's independent, but it was right up against it. And because of the collapse, some of that timber structure got a little compromised. So the marina staff is going to be working over the next week or so to stabilize that. The certificate is good till the end of the 28th, August 28th, and we'll be well done, in that time frame. I envision will probably be done by next week. I think they need the tides to be able to get under there to do the timber securing of that timber wharf. But that's pretty much a summary of what occurred. We do have a draft NOI in place, and we will be submitting, you know, a notice of intent for the whole project. Now it's also going to include after the fact of this demolition work as well.
Okay, why don't we get comments from commissioners? Yeah, roll call.
Repetier,
No comments?
Member Cook,
No comments.
Member Sergeant,
No comment.
Member Materi.
Yeah, how much debris or did any debris fall into the water before any kind of silt boom or anything was put in place?
Member Villa,
Nothing else to add at this time. So just answer that one question, Mrs. Smith, about what
Yep.
amount, if any, debris fell into the water?
Sure. Yeah, no debris fell in. When it collapsed, it basically just sunk. You know, that maybe some of the gravel along the edge that makes up the sandwich between the bituminous paving and the precast planks fell in, but it was just stone that kind of fell on stone. So I haven't been to the site to see the final, but I've been told by the owner that it is clean. Very little debris actually went into the riprap or the water during the demolition. And yeah, that's how it happened.
Okay, all right, sir. Chuck, do we need to memorialize it? It's already have a date and stamp.
This one also needs to be ratified.
Okay,
Okay, Charpentier move to approve emergency certificate 24-04 for 75 Essex Avenue.
Commissioner Cook, seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes.
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Sergeant,
Yes.
Member Materi,
Yes.
and Member Villa.
yes. Okay,
Thank
sir.
you.
Good luck. All right, we're moving out of emergency certifications and where you have a bunch of previously continued. Let me turn the light up. Okay, so I don't know, Chuck, just for the public's sake, I guess we should let them know what's in and what's out here in terms of continuations. Should I rip through them all? There's a bunch here, right?
Yeah, I think if you just read the NOI number and the address, I think you don't have to read all the rest of it.
Okay, so we're previously continued to 8/21/2024. Is notice of intent 0282950, 160, 158, 154A, 158R, 154A, Essex Avenue, Upper Banjo Pond. The next one would be notice of intent 0283055, River Road. That also has been previously continued to 8/21/2024. I think we're going to hear right now notice of intent 0283099, 7 Radcliffe Street, Marie Sweeney, Rockaway, and Rocky Neck Condo Trust for repair of the seawall, construction of a boulder landscape wall, and grading and land subject to coastal storm flowage, buffer zone to coastal resource area. William Manuel, Wetlands and Land Management representing.
That's been previously continued, it says.
No, that was a mistake on the previous agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, sorry.
Good evening. Bill Manuel from Wetlands and Land Management. Yes, Mr. Chairman, your audio is coming through loud and clear tonight. So that's perfect. So 7 Ratcliffe, we continued that the last meeting. We were waiting for shellfish comments and we've received those. And the concern from Rebecca, or the comment, was make sure they're not doing anything on the water side of the wall. And we had previously stated in my narrative that everything was going to be on the landward side, from the upland side. So not a concern there. After the meeting, remember there was the discussion of adding toe stones along the base of that wall to be repaired. And DMF wasn't particularly clear in their comments addressing that. I did go first back to the contractor, and he felt that the placement of those stones was somewhat critical to the the repair of this wall and its resiliency, long-term resiliency. So I did go back to Division of Marine Fisheries and ask them for a more specific comment on the placement of tow stones in the intertidal zone. They have again responded that they have no resource area concerns if tow stones were placed. So I think those were the last issues, and I'll just stop my presentation there.
Okay, so first up, we'll go to public comment. Anybody in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at 7 Ratcliffe Street may do so by hitting your raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 30 attendees and there are no hands up.
Seeing none, hearing none, I'll close public comment. I'll close the public comment period. Next up will be all commissioner comments.
Member Charpentier,
I have no comments.
Member Cook,
No additional comments.
Member Sargent.
I didn't see that additional comment, follow up from DMF in the folder. Was that submitted for us to review?
It should be in the folder. Let me find it. I can pull it up. It was more of an email rather than a formal comment. Let's see here.
That's pretty much all that DMF does these days. Which is fine.
Pretty much says it.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, anything else to add, Chuck, commissioners?
We still have Member Terry.
No, that was it, sorry.
Yeah, I guess that DMF email addresses the resource area concerns, but I believe we discussed whether there was a chapter 91 concern if you're adding tow stones. I don't know if you looked into that or anything, but how would you address that?
And Member Villa.
Nothing else to add at this time. So
All right, so we did do some research in the intervening 2 weeks. There are a couple of licenses for this particular property. One is a more recent one for the pier ramp and float that's out there. When I say recent, it's I think in the 80s. And then we discovered a 1913, maybe 1903, early 1900s Harbor and Land Commission license that actually allowed, it showed the particular wall that we are replacing. It actually allowed for a significant fill to connect what was the rock outcrop was more like an island with a boardwalk connecting it to the mainland. But that really had nothing to do with the wall that we're looking to repair. So basically what I explained to Iris at DMF is irregardless of other permits, the order of conditions is the first step we need to take. And we need to get permission from the Gloucester Concom before we can pursue other permits. I'm hopeful that we can get a minor modification to the existing Harbor and Land Commission license for the addition of these tow stones. And this could be an Army Corps self-notification or self-verification notification type of submittal. So hopeful that the additional permitting is not very complicated at all. But first step is we need an order of conditions.
Okay, understood. Anything else, commissioners? Chuck, anything to add?
No, we can add a condition that all additional permitting is attained before they start the work or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Commissioners, anything else to add? Linda, that with that one condition?
So the condition is to determine whether or not they need the additional permitting, correct?
Correct.
But they'll attain all those additional permits if they need them prior to the work starting.
We need to close the public comment period.
Yes.
Yes.
Charpentier moves to close the public comment period for NOI 0283009 at 7 Ratcliffe Street.
It is tough, though.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
Yes,
Member Terry,
Yes,
and Member Gola.
Yes.
and Charpentier moves to approve NOI 0283009 at 7 Ratcliffe Street with the aforementioned condition that the applicant continue to research whether they need additional permits and secure those permits prior to beginning any work.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
yes,
Member Terry,
yes.
and Member Gola.
Yes. Okay, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we are down to Ratcliffe Street, 105 Winger Chic. Notice of intent to 0283006, 105 Winger Chic Road, 125 Winger Chic LLC, and I'll do them separate, I guess. Has been previously continued to 8/21/2024, and we have notice of intent 0283007, 107 Winger Chic Road, 125 Winger Chic LLC. That also has requested to be, it has been previously continued to 8/21/2024, which brings us down to notice of intent 0282968, 22 Raven Lane, Lori Watson and Sue Dolan for Hawthorne Point Condo Association for repairs to existing retaining wall and buffer zone to coastal resource area and land stuff to coastal storm flowage. Lori Watson and Sue Dolan representing.
And we do also have Thor Akerley here as well. Are we joining?
Can anybody hear us here? Oh, there goes someone. That's Bill. Thor or Bill, can you hear us? Are you up? Is there anybody else?
Can anyone hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I apologize. My looks like my camera's having a little bit of an issue. Hold on one moment, please. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Sue Dolan should be joining.
Well, I don't want to make anyone wait any longer, and I'll share my screen here shortly anyway. But Thor Akerley, from Williams and Sparages, 189 North Main Street, Middleton, Massachusetts.
Okay, and Chuck, do you want to bring it up since he can't get his info?
I can share my screen too if you like.
Oh, okay.
And I apologize. The last time I shared my screen, my computer crashed, so I'm hoping that doesn't happen here. Okay. So the commission may recall back in, I guess it was October 2023, the Hawthorne Point Condominium Association filed a notice of intent with a different engineer for the repair of a section of seawall behind units 14 through 22, which are contained in this building. This is a 5-building condominium association. I don't know the exact total number of units, but there's a few buildings scattered around the property. Most of the area you see here is maintained lawn, landscaped areas, and pavement going out towards Eastern Point Road. In the back of building 14 through 22, it's bordered by a brick patio, some short retaining walls, steps, and then lawn areas backing up to an existing seawall that you see here. I'll do a few pictures as well. So back in October of 2023, Aaron Bennett was the engineer before you at the time. The commission had a few questions and comments for them as part of the notice of intent submittal, which we've tried to address in a letter. and on the plan here, of course. And I'll walk through those, but I'll also explain the plan as we go and try to cover everything that was brought up at the at that time. I suppose I should show the commissioners a few pictures as well while we're here. So this is a good picture of, this would be the southernmost portion of the wall, the lower portion of that building, where the association is having the biggest issues. So you can see the tape and the mark has been put out here to prevent people from walking in these areas along the edge of the wall here. And what's been occurring is sediment and soil has been getting sucked down through the back of this wall and out through the bottom of the wall. There are some pretty significant voids at the bottom of that wall. This is actually probably one of the better sections, but there's a lot of voids that exist along the bottom of the wall. And when seawater interacts, what our observation was is that when seawater constantly interacts with holes in walls, especially on the bottom half, it tends to pull sediment from the inside or the landward side of that wall out into the ocean. And so you have developed sinkholes of some kind along the landward side of the wall. And over time, they get worse. And you also have, of course, impervious areas landward of these areas, which may be contributing as well. And also the fact that you see a lot of these weep holes are located very high up on the wall where they should be much lower. And, you know, this is an older wall, of course, likely portions of it original to the development at Hawthorne Point in the 1980s. So the construction standards and methodologies were a bit different back then as well. So this application and materials we provided you will try to explain our methodology and thoughts behind the ways to repair the seawall.
Okay, so first up, I'm going to open up for public comment, and why don't we let Sue Dolan speak, Chuck, since it's the public comment period and she had her hand up. So
She's one of the applicants.
I know, but I would assume she has something to add. She's got her hand up.
I simply wanted to let the commission know that Thor was, and his engineering firm was representing the association, not Lori and I.
Okay, understood.
Thank
Nothing
you.
else to add? Okay, thank you. Okay, now I'll open for public comment. Anyone in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at 22 Raven Lane may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 29 attendees and we have one hand up, Max Arai.
Hello, this is Max. Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Max Arai at 18 Raven Lane, Gloucester, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And I've been submitting input to this committee since November in opposition to this project. The wall in question is not original to the development, but was installed in 2009 or 2010 with no permits and no permission from the commission. The section in question is a retaining wall, not a seawall, as the engineer has on his drawings. I also have, let's see, I sent in some comments this week. As we discussed at the November 1st meeting, the petitioners misrepresented the site characteristics on the application form and claimed exemption to the stormwater management standards, which the site is not entitled to. And instead, there should be a stormwater management plan in place on file. And if everything had been done according to the book, then they would just deliver that plan along with the NOI request. But that's not the case. So I don't think that it really makes sense to permit this thing. You know, the claim that it's a pre-existing structure hinges on the fact that it wasn't promptly removed when it was put in because it didn't comply with any permit process. And as a side note, the site does not appear to have any Chapter 91 permits for any seawall structures. I sent in a correspondence about that a month or two ago that included a very old letter from the DEP stating that they had done an extensive search of their records and could find no record of any Chapter 91 permit for the site. So if it were a seawall as drawn by the current set of engineers, then it would require a Chapter 91 permit in addition to the stormwater management plan. I don't think that that actually would be required for this project, but it is required for the site. So I think the engineer in his letter to the association outlined in some detail the reasons why the commission might be tempted to ignore the requirements for a stormwater management plan because of the minimal impact. However, the engineer does admit that there is sediment that is leaking from this structure, and that's what's causing the current damage. And that's a result of the fact that the structure was built improperly, doesn't have the appropriate drainage, and is now silting out and crumbling, literally. So I don't think the commission should approve this NOI, and instead they should either ask the applicant to put in a proper stormwater management plan and Chapter 91 permits as required, or simply reject it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak? If so, raise your hand.
We have no other hands up at this time.
Okay, seeing none here, none, a closed public comment period. Roll call comments, Chuck?
Member Charpentier.
I'd like to hear what the agent has to say about this project.
Member Cook.
No additional comment.
Member Sargent.
I'm wondering if technically this project is subject to a stormwater management regulations and report, and all 10 stormwater management standards are met, and I tend to agree that they are. Why not just submit a report and be done with it?
Member Terry.
Yeah, question for Chuck. There was a question raised by Mr. Arai about whether it was in compliance with a prior NOI 0282597. Wondering if you looked into that and whether or not you agree that it is, whether it's in a compliance or not. Second comment is I agree that this should be subject to the stormwater management standards. It meets, the condominium meets the size where it's applicable. The stormwater management standards are applicable. I think it appears from the plans that there may be, or there are going to be additional or new weep holes installed. I don't see how those aren't, discharge points of stormwater that is going to sort of build up in behind the wall and the crushed stone sort of layer that's proposed behind the wall to exit out into the resource area. So I'd like to see a consideration of stormwater management standards. And the third comment, as regards to Chapter 91, I think we can add a condition as we did to a prior project that we discussed at 7 Radcliffe today about conditioning commencement of the work on obtaining, further permitting from Chapter 91 or Army Corps as may be necessary.
Member Gullo.
I think Peter covered it all for me. So anybody else, Chuck, want to chime in on the end here?
Yeah, I guess as far as the Chapter 91 goes, I believe this is above mean high water, so I don't believe this particular section of wall would actually need a Chapter 91 license. Looking at the previous NOI 0282597, this particular section of wall was not part of that work that was covered under that NOI. So there's the issue of the certificate of compliance and stuff, which they have submitted for that wall. But this work would be work separate from that, which was previously permitted. So this, should be treated as a separate issue. I guess the question of whether or not it was built without a permit, looking back at the aerials that I could find, it does look like it was built at a time, that I could not find any permit on record. So I guess there's a question of, if it wasn't permitted, is it something that could be permitted? And if so, maybe they can change this to an after the fact permit that, permits the wall, but also permits the, proposed upgrades to it. I don't know. That's a question for you guys to determine.
All right, thanks, Chuck. Okay, Mr. Akerly, want to chime in here?
Yes, thank you for the comments. In regards to the whole stormwater piece of things, we agree that the site itself is subject to stormwater management standards. To Mr. Sargent's point, I talked with the engineers about it, and they're like, why we're not changing any impervious surfaces. I'm just a little unclear on why, a report. And I think we all agree that a full report is it's pointless in this case. But if it's a matter of submitting a checklist stating that the stormwater management standards are met, we can certainly do that. The weep holes, we did specifically talk about those in the office. That was a good point. I thought they could be considered a discharge or an outfall. But the engineers in our office, and Richard Williams, the design engineer here, specifically did not believe those would be considered discharge points or a stormwater management outfall, that they're only discharging groundwater from the back of the wall in the event that groundwater is captured there. And in reality, they're not discharging to any critical area. And it's really just, a fail-safe for water to get out of there behind the wall. And then it runs off on the exposed ledge and into the ocean. I would agree that the Chapter 91 license is not required in this case. It could be a different conversation on the other wall, but this is entirely above the mean high water line, and there is no work proposed to the actual, I guess moving around the rocks that you see on the face of the wall now. It's really patching, repairing, and then strengthening the back of that wall and making sure water can get out, and regrading the top of the wall so there's not stormwater running up against the top of the back of the wall and running down the wall. And then I do agree, with Chuck and the abutters comments. There certainly is a section of the wall that appears to have been constructed sometime around 2004, 2008 window that wasn't permitted. Share my screen quickly. It looks similar to the rest of the wall, but there is a section in this area that did appear to meet that. My experience, the commission typically has a 3-year window to take enforcement action on items like this. But certainly in a show of good faith, we'd be willing to incorporate that into the notice of intent if it makes sense. It is a little bit of a unique situation. I do think that it's very reasonable to say that it helps protect the site. It looked like before it was mostly exposed ledge in that area that really ran up to existing lawns. So having some sort of barrier there is beneficial, especially with the VE and flood zone areas extending into the back of the home. So I would hope if that's something the commission would want, I think we could accommodate that. I don't think that would be a huge problem for us to incorporate. But I guess it's just a question of potentially precedent, and then just the fact of do we go back in time and look at these things from 15 or so years ago. And then I believe that covered everything. And certainly the plan is to control the sediment, not let it out into the ocean. And our design is specifically designed to prevent that from happening any longer. So the site will be vastly improved. The dwellings there will be better protected, and the wall itself will be, in much better shape moving forward.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, if no one has anything else to add, unless someone.
I have some follow-up comments on that. If we're agreeing that it's subject to the stormwater standards, then there is a requirement in number 9 for a long-term operations and maintenance plan. So I don't know how you get around that if you're, acknowledging that it's subject to those standards. And in terms of sort of the groundwater only being what comes through the weep holes, that doesn't seem right to me. It seems like the way that at least the drawing is submitted, you have 4-inch layer of loam seed over a layer or a column of basically crushed stone that goes to where the weep hole enters the weep hole, and then it crosses through the concrete, crosses through the masonry wall, and then it exits out into the resource area. So, if there's any surface flowing runoff water that is on the grass area, that would seem to infiltrate through the crushed stone. It would go through the weep holes, and it would, come out into the resource area. So I don't see that as only groundwater. Maybe I'm mistaken, but to me it seems like that there is a stormwater concern there. So if the weep holes are functioning as a stormwater conveyance or a stormwater system, I think they're going to require a long-term maintenance plan, under the stormwater standard.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Anyone else? Any other comments, commissioners?
We do have Max Arai's hand is up again. I didn't know if you wanted to let him to speak again.
Yep.
I just wanted to point out that in any case, the engineer's drawings should be corrected. There's been a great deal of confusion when discussing structures at this condo association, whether something is a retaining wall or a seawall, and that the label that's applied is very loose. But it's my understanding that a seawall is a structure that is regularly in contact with seawater, meaning that the mean high water line is somewhere on the structure. And as everybody has noted, this is a retaining wall. So what should be in the drawings is that it's a retaining wall, not a seawall, because there's been, at least outside of these meetings, there's been a huge amount of confusion as to which structures at the site are seawalls and which are retaining walls. And I believe it's true that they're subject to different kinds of regulation, such as the Chapter 91. That's why I raised the Chapter 91, is that if it's going to be drawn as a seawall, then it needs a 91 permit. If it's not, then it should be drawn properly. So at a minimum, the engineering drawings should be corrected to show the structure properly, in addition to submitting a stormwater management plan.
Okay, thank you, sir, for that follow-up. Okay, Mr. Akerly, I get there are a few wrinkles, I think, here that need to be ironed out. I could be wrong, but I believe that's what I'm feeling here with my commission here. So unless any commissioners have, I think we want to continue this for, I know I might want to do a little sidewalk myself and double check and see the height of those weeps and actually what's going on there day to day. So are you okay with a continuation, sir?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And I would also suggest, there are a few low-hanging fruits here that could be rectified, I think, like if there is adjustments needed in the plan, and this gentleman, the one commenter, recent commenter, you might as well capture those at the same time if they're real. I mean, obviously, if they're not real issues, then don't. And if you want to also fold in that other section of the wall into the package as well, I think that would be wise. Anything else, commissioners?
Nope.
Does that sound like a plan, Ms. Bakerly?
That sounds good to me. Thank you all for your time.
Okay, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
When do they want to continue to?
Oh, that's right. How long do you go out, Mr. Akerly? 2 months, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think 2 weeks is fine for now. We'll shoot to have things to you for the next deadline for that meeting, and we'll be there anyway for the certificate of compliance request, so we can have that discussion as well.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
August 20.
Carpentier moves to continue NOI 0282968 at 22 Raven Lane to the commission meeting of August 21st.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
Yes,
Member Lettieri,
Yes.
and Member Bell.
Yes. Okay, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Next up, we have notice of intent 0282967-171 and 28R Magnolia Ave, Howe Mag LLC. Construction of a 26-unit residential subdivision in riverfront area and buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetland. Evan Gavendran of DeRosa Environmental Inc. represented.
And they have requested to continue to August 21st.
Okay,
okay, Charpentier moves to continue NOI 0282976 at 171 and 281R Magnolia Avenue to the commission meeting of August 21st.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
yes,
Member Lettieri,
Yes.
and Member Gullo.
yes. Okay. Next up then is notice of intent 0282981, 139 Wingersheep Road, Ernest Herman, removal of unpermitted boardwalk on dune and revegetated portions of pre-existing path in coastal dune. Land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal bank, and land containing shellfish. Mary Rimmer Environmental Consulting LLC representative. Hello, Ms. Rimmer.
Hello, sorry that took me a little while to get back in. Good evening. I'm here representing 139 Wingersheep Road, Ernest and Kathleen Herman. And with me as well is Valerie Moore, their attorney. This is a continued public hearing for access to Wingersheep Beach. And I am going to be operating the screen with the plans, and I think Valerie's has some comments that she'd like to make.
That's right. Thank you, Mary, and good evening, members of the commission. My name is Valerie Moore, and I'm an attorney with Nutter, McLennan, and Fish of 155 Seaport Boulevard in Boston. And I'm here tonight on behalf of the 139 Wingersheep Nominee Trust. So since this project was last in front of you, we've made some changes to the plans, largely because there were significant changes on the site itself. So since the applicant last appeared in front of you, some significant erosion has occurred on the site, changing the condition such that there's now a very sharp 5 to 6 foot vertical drop off from the edge of the dune down to the beach. So because of that, the prior proposal of a Moby map by itself is no longer sufficient to provide access to the beach because it can't cover that kind of sharp drop off. So as a result of the changes to those on the ground conditions in this environment, we've made modifications to the plans, and I'll ask Mary to pull the plan up on the screen, starting with the existing conditions plan, so we can walk through the changes, as well as refresh your recollection, because I know it's been some time since this was last in front of you. So as you can see on the screen, the proposal is to remove the existing wooden boardwalk, and Mary can show where the footprint of that existing boardwalk is, and to revegetate the areas that were previously vegetated that were removed when the boardwalk was put in. And as you can see, particularly extending out to the left, there's a significant area of replanting, and in the middle there. And if you want to switch to the other plan, it shows the proposed work. So we're still proposing to remove the boardwalk, and that will be done in compliance with the time of year restrictions. And we are continuing to propose the plantings in the areas of vegetation that were previously disturbed to restore those areas. And we do still propose to seasonally install a Moby mat on the existing path in order to better protect the dune. The mat will be installed again in compliance with time of year restrictions, and the anchors for it would be all hand installed. It would be removed each year on a seasonal basis. Because of that very sharp drop off that can't be navigated, now we propose to install a seasonal rollaway ramp with a platform at the top that will better protect the dune and provide access down to the beach below over that significant drop off. The proposed work has been thoughtfully designed to comply with the performance standards in the Wetlands Protection Act for work within a coastal dune, and those are the ones that I'll walk through now, because I think those are the most significant ones with respect to the proposed work. So the first standard is that the work cannot affect the ability of waves to remove sand from the dune. The proposed ramp would not, in fact, impact the ability of waves to remove sand from the dune. That would still continue. As you can see, it doesn't obstruct that, and it doesn't put any permanent structures within the dune. The second standard is that it cannot disturb the vegetative cover so as to destabilize the dune. The proposed work would, in fact, restore parts of the vegetative cover. So it would not be disturbing it further. It would be, in fact, restoring that, meeting the second standard. The third is that it shall not cause any modification of the dune form that would increase the potential for storm or flood damage. Here, this should not impact the dune form at all. In fact, it would be more protective of the dune form than under existing conditions, because we'd be removing that boardwalk structure, and better protective than existing access, because it will protect the dune from the impacts of pedestrian traffic and over the dune itself. It will not, as to the fourth standard, it will not interfere with the landward or lateral movement of the dune. Again, there's no permanent structures being proposed within the dune, so it would still be able to move. The dune will still erode and grow as the seasons change. And unlike a permanent structure, because it is a rollaway ramp, it can adapt to the dune as the dune migrates, as opposed to a permanent structure that would require greater impacts and would eventually need to be replaced if the dune were to move. The fifth standard, that it will not cause removal of sand from the dune artificially. Obviously, this will not cause any removal of it, because again, there's no proposed permanent structures within the dune. And finally, that it will not interfere with mapped bird habitat. And here, we've worked with NHESP to address their comments. As you may recall, at the prior, with the prior form of the plan, NHESP had expressed some concerns about it. We were able to address those with proposed conditions, and with the proposed changes to the plans. And NHESP indicated that it will issue an approval and provided their proposed conditions for that to the commission. The proposed work has been thoughtfully designed to comply with all required performance standards. The Gloucester Wetlands Ordinance does not contain any separate standards for work within a coastal dune, so I've just gone over the ones in the Wetlands Protection Act this evening. Before turning it over to you for any questions and comments, I did want to point out that we did provide responses to DEP, which had also commented on the prior proposal. We have received no further comments from them at this time. And NHESP's comments have been addressed. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions you may have about the proposal and the specifics of it. We can also bring the plans back up as needed.
Okay, Ms. Moore, thank you for that. Our typical move next is to do a public comment period. So we'll get all those wrapped up and then you can respond to them as if there's more than one person. If anybody from the public wishes to speak now, you may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hit *9 on your phone handheld or handheld device.
We currently have 22 attendees and there are no hands up at this time.
Seeing none, hearing none, close public comment period. Now we're going to move on to commissioner roll call comments where same thing applies, where we'll tell you our concerns or whatnot. And at the end of it all, you can roll call comments.
Yep, member Thornton.
No comments?
Member Cook.
Yeah, I have several comments. First off, I believe the performance standard for a single family home is 3 feet wide, not 5.5. So that's the first issue. The second issue is the use of an ATV crossing over onto the resource area. Now, I personally have had 2 conversations a few years ago on 2 separate occasions with the environmental police. And in both of those cases, they very specifically stated that you were not allowed to bring an ATV over the dunes and onto the beach. The second time that I talked to them, I says, but my deed allows me to launch and retrieve a vessel. And he goes, yes, but nowhere does it say that you can use an ATV to do it. So unless I can see something from the environmental police saying that it is now allowable to bring an ATV onto the beach, then, you know, I can't support it. But the other side is it also needs to be a 3 foot wide max ramp.
Member Sargent.
Yes, thank you for the changes. I'm concerned about the last helical pile that's at the top of the dune. I don't want that too close to the end of the dune because that would undermine it. And to Commissioner Cook's comment, I think Moby mats do 3¼ feet of Moby mats as well. I note that DEP has sent an email to the conservation agent that says all of their questions are not addressed, and that National Heritage has said that they will comment by August 24th, and that they haven't finally commented yet.
Member Terry. You're muted.
Join us.
Sorry. One question about restoration of the dune portions that have been altered by the fixed boardwalk. Is the restoration work include any installation of sand to sort of raise the level up to meet the height of the dune or condition of the dune on either side of the altered area? Second comment is again, another condition I would attach would be to remove all ramp and landing elements seasonally, including the helical piles. I think that might be part of your proposal, but I just want that to be clear and compliance with NHESP conditions. And also I echo Commissioner Sargent's concern that there aren't final NHESP conditions issued yet. So I would hold off for final approval until those are issued.
No further comments. Chuck, anyone else?
I guess the one question I brought up in the previous meeting is pertains to the actual delineation. They show they show the coastal dune ending where the grass begins, and I don't believe that is correct. I mean, you can see just in this aerial alone, once this grass is disturbed by the use of the ATVs, that's all sand underneath there. That dune extends probably much further up than is being shown. Even other photos in other areas have been disturbed by the ATVs and parking of boats and stuff. This whole area is going to be, you know, you need to do a better delineation, I believe, of where that dune extent actually is. The reason that's important is because you're only showing restoration and the use of MobiMat and the ramp and stuff for this lower portion of the dune, but you're not addressing the entire dune area where this activity is taking place. So in my mind, I think there needs to be a revisit of the actual delineation for future iterations. And also, I guess, you know, comment, I agree that this needs to be removed seasonally, but also just want to note that, you know, it should not be stored within the dune area after it has been removed. It should be moved out of the resource areas.
Okay, Ms. Moore, do you want to respond?
Yes, I will, and I'll start by saying I understand that NHESB's comments are not their final ones yet, so certainly we're not expecting the commission to act tonight, and will likely ask for a continuance, given that your next meeting is the 21st, and they've said by the 24th they'll issue their comments. I would suggest it would be the meeting after the 21st. I first will speak to Commissioner Cook's comments about the 3-foot path width that you referenced. That comes from a guidance document from the Office of Coastal Zone Management. It's not, in fact, a performance standard within the Wetlands Protection Act regulation. So it's not binding on this commission, and it certainly is not something that I would suggest applies to an existing pathway. This isn't a new proposed pathway where there wasn't one previously. This is one that's been with this property as far back as we can trace the history of the property. So I would suggest that the appropriate standard before the commission is not what CZM suggests for new pathways to be constructed, but rather whether what is proposed can meet the performance standards in the Wetlands Protection Act. And that is, and I believe that it can. With respect to the use of the ATV, this is a private beach. There's no prohibition, to my knowledge, of the use of ATVs on private beaches, but we're happy to put together some documentation of that for you and submit that in advance of the next hearing. But I would note that if you read the proposed conditions from NHESP, we've proposed limitations on the use of the ATV.
Okay, before, just to clarify this, this was on Coffins Beach that I spoke with the environmental police on both occasions. And they specifically said that there were none allowed on Coffins Beach.
Okay.
So it needs something from the environmental police saying that's no longer the case. Because like I said, we've had that conversation with them twice, and in both times, they specifically said the ATVs were not allowed on Coffins Beach.
Okay, well, we can follow up before the next hearing, since we'll be continuing tonight anyway, with documentation for you that it's not prohibited. But I did want to clarify that with the conditions that we discussed with NHESP, we are proposing limitations on its use, specifically because it is really only being used to transport mobility impaired individuals to the beach. We would be proposing that it be the ATV is only used on the MobiMat and the ramp itself, and then just turned around and brought right back up the MobiMat and ramp. We're not proposing to use it regularly on the beach itself. So I did just want to clarify that. And we can agree to conditions as discussed about with respect to removing all of the equipment, including the helical piles, seasonally, and storing them outside of the dune. We're happy to do that. And I'll ask Mary to speak to the dune delineation, as well as the helical piles proximity to the dune that Commissioner Sargent raised.
Yes, and
Name and address for the record, Mary?
I'm sorry, Mary Rimmer from Rimmer Environmental Consulting. Thank you for your comments. With respect to the planting, we had proposed to plant just at grade. If the commission would like us to bring in additional sand, the Hermans have no objection to that. We can certainly raise that elevation slightly. So if that's something that you'd like to do, please let us know and we'll include that in any revised plans. But right now we're planting at grade. As far as the delineation goes, I know that there was a tremendous amount of overwash from the recent storms and sand. So there may be sand over some of the lawn area now. But that's not an area that's proposed to be worked on. And if you pull up that image again, Chuck, I think that you can see there's a path that goes, there's a walkway that goes down to the path, and the sand area is not near that walkway. So we're not proposing to do anything in that area, regardless of what the delineation shows. I think, yeah, you can see.
That was a previous aerial. This is the current condition.
Yeah. Okay, so it covered up over the walkway. That material, and it's over the boardwalk. So
yeah, this is not overwash back here though.
That's overwash right there, I believe.
All back here?
Yeah, you can see it's covering it looks like it's covering part of the boardwalk too.
Have you dug soil pits anywhere out here?
I have not. So we can certainly do that. And if the dune goes up further, it still won't change the impacts that are proposed under this, because there is a walkway that extends, you can see from the other image, that extends to the boardwalk. So they were intending to continue to use that walkway.
For ATVs?
For ATVs, I think the ATVs could go on the lawn itself. That's a good question. So for that section right there, they may go on the lawn and then over that overwash area. It's pretty firm there, so I don't anticipate that there's any, excuse me, any risk to changing dune form or function, because it's lawn primarily. But that's something we can look into as well. I don't know if the Hermans have any particular comments that they wanted to make at this time.
If the Hermans want to speak, you can put your hands up. Raise your hand button.
Yep, we've got Ernie, Herman, and Kathleen.
Yep.
Name and address for the record when you get
Hi,
on.
can you hear me?
Yep, name and address for the record, sir.
Ernie Herman, 139 Wingersheek Road. Yes, I would just like to reiterate what Mary was saying. That is sand that was blown up there, and the ATVs don't go on. That walkway is a cobblestone, which kind of disappears when you get, I guess, about 30 or 40 feet from the sand path to the beach. So that was never anything in fact, that walkway is probably about 4 to 5 feet wide, give or take, I would say. And that sand over there, there's been a couple of seasons where the sand actually blows up even further than that from the wind, really, not the ocean. It's more from the wind, to the point that on both sides, it'll sometimes blow and cover up more of the lawn on our neighbor to the right, I guess, when you look at that photo, and more of our lawn on the left. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, the windblown sand would be a dune.
Indicate dune, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So we can look at that, certainly, Chuck. And one other point I wanted to make before I turn it back to the commission is that the MobiMat details were included in the material that was submitted to you, which I can share with you again. But the detail that was needed to support, or handicap accessibility, those mats are 5 feet wide or 6.5 feet wide. So we selected the the narrower of the two. So again, this is an attempt to get just to the beach. The ATV use Natural Heritage would not allow us to drive up and down the beach either. So it needs to just turn around and go back up the ramp. And that isn't the intention of the property owner. So that's all.
Okay, I think everybody's spoken.
May I?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
The Attorney Moore said that the ATV wouldn't regularly go on the beach, which caused me some concern. And I'm wondering if we want to ask DMF and the Shellfish Department if they have any concerns about impacts that motorized beach vehicles have on land containing shellfish.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we're continuing to, what's the date, Chuck?
The next meeting will be the 21st.
Can I suggest that we go with the September 4th meeting if NHESP has said that their comments are not expected until August 24th, so that we
Makes
can
sense.
present more comprehensively?
Yep, that's reasonable. Okay.
Okay. Charpentier moves to continue NOI 0282981 at 139 Wingersheet Road to the commission meeting of September 4th.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
Yes.
Member Terry,
Yes.
and Member Cook.
Yes. Are we good? I think we're good. All right, we'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night. Next up. What are we at here? 139. We are up to notice of intent 028 3011 131 Wingersheet Road, Timothy and Elizabeth Allen Trust for installation of 3 feet, a 3-foot wide seasonal ramp, an existing pedestrian walkway, Barrier Beach, Coastal Beach, and land subject to coastal stone flowage. Mary Rimmer of Rimmer Consulting LLC representing.
Thank you very much. And this is a continued public hearing. I think at the last meeting, I don't believe there were any comments from the commission members. We were awaiting comments from Natural Heritage, which we have received. They're the standard conditions for protection of piping clovers, which the applicant has no objection to at all. If you want to make those as part of any special conditions or incorporate the letter as part of the order of conditions. I can go through the project again if you like, but it is very similar to the previous one we discussed, except that it's a 3-foot wide boardwalk. I mean, a ramp. And it has again, helical supports and a small platform at the top to support the structure. It's all removed seasonally, and it can be adjusted according to the amount of erosion that occurs in any given year. You can see on the plan as well, there was a partially buried wooden steps that are about 50 feet back from the dune face now. So you can see how much accretion has occurred, but now we're in an erosion phase, it appears. So this gives more flexibility in terms of access. And right now there's a ladder the owner is using to access the beach.
Okay, well, why don't we, we'll do this the typical way. So first I'll open up for public comment. Anybody in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project of 131 Wingersheet Beach may do so by hitting the raise your hand button. I should say Wingersheet Road. You can raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 19 attendees and there are no hands up.
Okay, why don't we go to commissioner roll call comments?
Member Charpentier,
no comments.
Member Cook,
No comment.
Member Sargent,
Yes, I'd like to incorporate, the conditions that National Heritage did, and I also want to make sure that the last helical pile is not too close to the edge of the dune.
Member Terry,
Yeah, conditions to remove all helical piles, landing ramp elements seasonally, and also storage outside of any resource area.
Member Gullo?
Nothing else to add at this time. Okay. Nobody else has it. So we are moving to approve or moving to continue?
We're moving to close the public comment period.
There we go.
Charpentier moves to close public comment period for NOI 028-3011 at 131 Wingershik Road.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier?
Yes,
Member Cook?
Yes.
Member Sargent?
Yes.
Member Terry?
Yes.
Member Gullo?
Yes. Okay.
okay, Charpentier moves to approve NOI 028-3011 at 131 Wingershik Road with the aforementioned conditions of including the National Heritage Letter conditions in the order of conditions, making sure that the last helical pile is not too close to the dunes, and ensuring that the seasonal removal of the structures and that they not be stored in the resource area.
Well done.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier?
Yes,
Cook?
Yes.
Member Sargent?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And Member Gullo?
Yes. Okay. Everybody good?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hey, a quick question, Ms. Rimmer. Did they ever extend the tolling?
No,
They
it
did
didn't
not.
pass, although it may still happen, but it didn't get through by the 31st.
Oh,
I
okay.
got hung up on another bill. Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry to hear that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good night. Next up is minor modification we're up to, right? 0282784, 167 Atlantic Street, Lot 3, Michael Hannon. Construction of a single-family house with utility, septic system, driveway, landscaping, and appearances in as part of a 3-lot subdivision in riverfront area, buffer zone to BVW, salt marsh, and land subject coastal storm flowage. Jesse D. Schumer represented.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, well, I can.
Thank you. For the record, Attorney Jesse Schumer representing the applicant on this matter. I'll be very brief. Our engineer, Chris Barages, is available tonight to run through the plans, but just as a very brief reminder to the commissioners, we were previously before you just a couple of weeks ago back on July the 17th. And prior to that, on June the 5th, on those dates, the commissioners approved extension permits for these orders of conditions for lot 1, 2, and 3 for 167 Atlantic Road. And at the previous hearing of the commission on the 17th of last month, which was for lots 2 and 3 extension permits, we discussed with the commission the modification of the approved plans that the commission had previously approved as compared with the modifications that were approved by the Board of Health back on July the 11th, when they approved the septic variance for the shared system for lots 2 and 3. So as the commissioners will remember, on the 17th, we discussed whether the modification of the plans, which Chris will go through again in just a moment, rose to the level of a minor modification or required a formal amendment of the orders of conditions for these projects. And the commission took a straw poll that the changes could be approved as a minor modification without need for a full public hearing, which is why we're here tonight before you. Chris's office had filed the request for minor modification for lots 2 and 3. So I'll hand it over to Chris with just the one question and proviso, I guess. We'd request that these two matters both be heard at the same time so that the commissioners don't need to double your efforts discussing essentially the same project twice. I know you've got a long agenda before you behind us. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris. Thank you very much.
You're muted.
You got unmuted. Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. You still got to unmute yourself. There you go. Should be here now. Don't get nothing, huh?
It's like we lost Chris, unfortunately. Hopefully he's logging back on. I know Chris had walked through the changes on the plan, but for the benefit of the commissioners, I think we should make him sing for his supper again tonight.
Always something. Are you here, Chris? Came and went, just there. It seems to say you're still muted, Chris. Can't hear, huh?
If I could offer a suggestion, maybe I could, if I could get Chris on the phone, maybe he could go through my audio. That may be a workaround if Chris is unable to unmute himself.
Okay, sure. I'll give it a whirl, or we really don't believe it or not, we only have a couple more items to go over, so maybe it's best you do that. Try and see if you can sync in with your phone.
All right.
Let's see, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can the commissioners hear Chris?
Yes.
I apologize. I have an error on audio for some reason. Okay, thank you, members of the commission. I'm just going to run through the proposed changes to the plans. If it's okay to share my screen.
Chris, if you have another phone, shut it off so it the echo.
Sure. I may have to stop my video. Let's see. Is that better?
Yeah, not much, but let's go. We can live with it.
All right, I apologize. Okay, so can everyone see the screen?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So at the last meeting on July 17th, we reviewed the revised plan with changes, and they involved pulling items up further away from the wetland resource area. The bordering vegetative wetland is down at the bottom of the plan here. I've highlighted the 100-foot buffer zone. That's this thicker green line. And what we've done is removed the leaching area for lot 3. It is now gone, along with the septic system and pump chamber. We have a new building sewer running from lot 3 over to lot 2. The septic tank and pump chamber in this property have increased in size slightly. And we have only some minor grading changes between the two properties. Now that we've removed the leaching field, we can lessen the steepness of the slope and make it more regular. I've highlighted those minor contour changes here. Most importantly, there were no changes to the approved extensive planting plan. And this plan, of course, reflects changes to the number of bedrooms on each of the proposed properties. And you can see a 3-bedrooms home here and a 3-bedroom home on lot 3. That's the summary of the changes, and Jesse and I are here to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Okay, I'll open up a public comment. Anyone in the public who wishes to speak for or against the minor modification at 167 Atlantic Street may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 15 attendees and we have one hand up, Robert Bishop.
Okay. Mr. Bishop, can you hear
You
me?
guys hear me?
Yep, name and address for the record.
Robert Bishop, 176 Atlantic Street. I just wanted to confirm with Chris and the committee that lot number 2 is now officially a single-family home, not a duplex per the agenda.
Okay.
As well as lot number 3 is also a single-family home.
For you, Mr. Chair. Both proposed dwellings are single-family homes.
Thank you very much for confirming.
You're welcome. Anyone else got their hand up, Chuck?
There are no other hands up at this time.
Seeing none, hearing none, close public comment period. So commissioners, do we need to go through the unit 2, or was this the only? This covered 2 and 3, or we just covered 2? This discussion.
I believe the plans are showing both lots 2 and 3.
Okay, so we dealt with both at the same time then, we're good to go? I have 2 minor modifications in front of me, this is the problem. One for lot 2, one for lot 3. So Mr. Schumer, what did we just talk about? Which one?
That's both, Mr. Chair.
That's what I wanted to hear. Okay, great. All right,
Yes.
now we'll move on to commissioner comments.
Member Charpentier,
I have no comments.
Member Cook,
No comments, like the new plan.
Member Sargent,
No comment.
Member Materi.
Do you have the final Board of Health approval for this change in work? Or is there any more proceedings in front of the Board of Health?
Member Villa.
We do have the final approval from the Board of Health. It's subject to a 30-day appeal period, but apart from that, the Board of Health hearing is completed.
When does that appeal period end?
I believe it's the 31st of this month.
I had nothing else to add, Chuck.
Sure.
Peter, you look like you still want more information.
Well, I'm wondering if we want to, I want to get this, I don't see there are any issues with the project. I just don't know if we want to continue until the appeal period runs or, I don't know, give our approval. I don't know. I'm leaving that up for everybody else to consider.
Chuck, what do you think?
I mean, I guess, if there's going to be changes, if it is appealed and things need to change, we could ask that they come back at that point. Because there again would be some modifications, I imagine.
Right.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Mr. Schumer, you okay with that?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay. So we're gonna move,
We're going to close the public comment period and then move to approve.
yep,
Yep,
Okay, Charpentier moves to close the public comment period for the minor modifications 028 2784 at 167 Atlantic Street, Lot 3. And the minor modification 028 2801 at 167 Atlantic Street, Lot 2.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Member Cook,
Yes,
Member Sargent,
Yes, yes.
Member Materi,
Yes.
Member Villa.
yes. Okay, gentlemen, if you're all,
we got
but we can approve it first.
oh geez, it jumped ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, Charpentier moves to approve minor modification 028 2784 at 167 Atlantic Street, Lot 3. And minor modification 028 2801 at 167 Atlantic Street, Lot 2. With the aforementioned condition that if there is any change to the septic, that the applicant will bring that to the attention of the agent.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Member Cook,
Yes,
Member Sargent,
Yes, yes.
Member Materi,
Yes.
and Member Villa.
Yes. All
Thank
right,
you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
all right. So
Rob, I know we have a long agenda. Can we take a short break before we get in the new business?
Sure. Motion for a 5-minute recess?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Let's do it. All right. Who's next? Chuck. Bill's here. Linda is here. I think we're waiting on Chuck. Yes, Chuck. All right, the band's back together. No Linda yet. We want to move without Linda, or we give her a minute. There she is.
All right, let's blast through these.
All right, next up is extension 0282699, 163 Atlantic Road, Lot 5, Melanson Development, construction of 2 multifamily buildings in wetland bank mitigation areas within buffer zone to Coastal Bank, BBW, Will Shakuda of Moore and Cameron Group, Inc.
I didn't see Will, but we have Dan Severs with his hand up. Dan, are you here to represent this one?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep, name and address it for the record, sir.
For the record, my name is Dan Severs with Moore and Cameron Group, and I'm here to fill in for Will Shkuda. He is in Mexico currently.
Good for him. All right.
We're looking to extend the order of conditions 1 more year, as we're not ready to submit for a certificate of compliance at this time. The site is stabilized, but it's still needing a final construction closeout.
Okay. Why don't we do commissioner roll call comments? Chuck, see if anyone has any concerns.
Yep, Member Charpentier,
No concerns.
Member Cook,
No concerns.
Member Sergeant,
No concerns.
Member Materi,
No comments.
and Member Gullo.
No comments. So, I guess we can move this.
There's no public hearing on this, right?
Nope.
Correct.
Okay. Hold on. See what this says. Charpentier moves to approve extension 0282699 at 163 Atlantic Road, Lot 5.
For how long?
For, what do we say, 1 year?
Yep.
Commissioner Cook seconds?
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes.
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Sergeant,
Yes.
Member Materi,
Yes.
and Member Gullo.
Yes. All right. I think you're all set, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next up, RDA 180811 into 13 Harbor Loop Drive. Evan Parker, use of hose to utilize harbor. I can barely read this. Use of hose to utilize harbor water for distillery and designated port area land under the ocean, land subject to coastal storm flowage. Evan Parker represent.
He should be joining as a panelist.
I missed that one in my packet, jeez.
They here?
Erin, is that you?
Hello, hi, hello.
There you go.
Is it
For
is
the
it
record.
working? Hello, how are you doing?
Good. Name and address for the record, sir.
Evan Parker, 12 Mill Road, Ipswich, Massachusetts.
Okay. And what are you looking to do here?
I'm looking, it's basically, I just want to put a PVC pipe down into the harbor at that property to use as chilling water for my distillery equipment, and then return the water back to the harbor water temperature and just back down. So it's a passive closed system, just a pump and a hose, and that's it.
Is this your property?
No, this is Land and Sea Management.
down on, in between the building center and the US Coast Guard.
Okay.
It's the
All right.
green building all the way down on the water.
All right, I'm gonna open up for public comment first, so just sit back for a sec. So if anybody in the public wants to speak towards RDA 1808 1113 Harbor Loop Drive, you may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 12 attendees and there are no hands up at this time.
Seeing none, hearing none, a closed public comment period. Okay, next up would be roll call commissioner comments and questions.
Member Charpentier.
Yeah, I'd like to know what the temperature is of the water that's returned. And if there's any concern about that temperature in terms of any sort of, either shellfish or other aquatic creatures or flora in that area.
Yeah, so basically my plan is to pump the water up into the still, use it in the condensing water, then have a system off to the side, and reducing that water temperature. It comes off the still back down to the harbor water temperature, and just passively let back into the harbor with no contaminants or anything going back into the water. It's a closed system, so it's actually, like a lobster pool in a way.
Yep.
Member Cook.
No comments.
Member Sargent.
Because of potential of adding the colder water back in, I think I'd like, DMF to comment, and I haven't seen any plans for this, and you might want to consider your next venture to call this the deadliest batch if you're using harbor water. Thank you.
I do have plans, and the building department has already reviewed them and is okay with it. And the cold water going back in and coming back out is just, it's no different than kind of a boat for their engine and then cooling, but a boat puts the water back in warm, and I'll be cooling that back down. So it just returns back into the water as the temperature as it comes back, comes into the building. So there'll be nothing adversely affecting the shellfish. I'm actually an Ipswich shell fisherman, so I'm very concerned about all that stuff too. And I know there's an upweller down, a couple docks down, dealing with oysters. So I was very concerned about that, and I had to rattle my brain a lot to figure out a way to do it. And yeah, it's just basically a reverse condensing, using the harbor water to condense the water back down to the cool water.
Peter, anything to add?
I guess my question is, I'd like to see sort of what the intake and outfall system would look like on a plan. How are you going to measure the water temperature? If there's a plan to do that. Your filing mentioned something about an aquaculture proposal. I wonder if that's still part of it. I think
yeah, that's kind of
that. Let me finish before.
Yes, sir.
I need more information on the aquaculture, and I'd also like to get input from DMF and Shellfish Constable about whether or not there's a marine fisheries interest in this area as well that might be effective.
Yeah, this is the harbor is usually closed for fishing, so I can get that though. Division Marine Fisheries is very reasonable with stuff like this. So the aquaculture was just phase 2, if it was possible through DMF and coastal zone management. But the new thing in aquaculture is 3D aquaculture, basically just using the whole water column if possible, instead of just using the bottom or the floating top. So yeah, that was just a phase 2, and that's just passive. It's just aquaculture. It would just be like a hatchery growing just seed to 1/2 inch, and then selling it off to other aquaculture farms.
So is that part of this proposal, or is that?
No, this is that would be phase 2 if it was, deemed, yeah, from DMF, basically they're the ones that give you the okay. If not, and it's not an area of an ACEC, so I deal with that up in Ipswich. The ACEC is the fun part to deal with. So,
So this is an RDA. Basically,
yep.
what we do is, I think we're all going to need a little bit more information. We can get it through Chuck. If you can get it to Chuck, we can get it. But I think we need a little bit more description for understanding and DMF to take a peek at it too, to make sure we're not causing a problem. And maybe even Shellfish if you have the time. I would also get a little note from them. Because it is the harbor, and though it's a contaminated harbor, there's still critters there that are sensitive to water temperature change. So lastly, it isn't unprecedented. I'm not sure if most people know, but years ago, the pub that used to be at the corner down at the west end there, that restaurant that's there now, I forget the name of it, but they did the same thing for a brewery. It used to be the brewery.
Oh, yeah.
They took the water out of the harbor for a while, to use for their beer making.
Mm-hmm.
And it did pretty well, but I avoided it because of what Dave Sargent just said.
Yeah, no, this water would be, I'm very conscious of that, would be returned back to the exact temperature of what would be taken out of the harbor.
So we're going to continue you for a couple weeks just to get a little more information for us, if that's okay.
Okay.
So
what you need, the plans and calculations?
What you sent the building department would be help. We'd like you to talk to DMF, and we'd like you to talk.
Okay. Thank you.
Continue you for 2 weeks, okay?
Okay.
Charpentier moves to continue RDA 1808 11 to 13 Harbor Loop Drive to the commission meeting of September 4th. Oh, no.
No, 8/21.
August, corrected. The continuation to the meeting of August 21st.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier.
Yes.
Member Cook.
Yes.
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Member Lettieri.
Yes.
Member Bola.
Yes. Looking forward to a little more information.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Next up. No DEP number for pending DEP number for 028 21 Wingersheek Road. Eric Hendrickson to install native vegetative walkway, permeable patio, dog run, retaining walls, and coastal dune and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Cameron.
Did we skip one?
Looks, yeah.
Which one?
The RDA 1809.
One am I on? Oh, there it is. Jesus. Eyes are getting worse. RDA 1809 20 Walnut Street, Squam Rock Land Trust, invasive species removal and installation of native plantings and bordering vegetative wetland, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and buffer zone to coastal bank. Erica Schenk representing him.
Commissioner Sargent recuses.
Okay, thank you. Erica?
Hi.
Hi. Name and address for the record?
Yes, I represent the Squam Rock Land Trust at 20 Walnut Street.
And your name, full name, just for the record.
Eroica Nelson Skank.
Thank you. Well, what are you planning to do here?
Well, in a nutshell, we're asking or seeking approval to engage in a targeted weeding project on this parcel of about 12 acres. We're not engaging any wholesale removal of large areas of vegetation. Our objective is to selectively remove invasives while being careful not to leave the native vegetation undisturbed. We will also at times be replanting to introduce more healthy biodiversity. Over the past 3 years, we've been working with experts in ecological restoration, mainly Mass Audubon, who has written a very extensive restoration and stewardship plan for us, which I submitted along with other maps and information. And we've also done our own extensive research to ensure that we're following best practices. that are feasible for this particular situation, in which we're mainly relying on trained volunteers. That is to say that we were smart enough to know what we didn't know. So we sought out a lot of expert feedback, and now we feel we have enough guidance and knowledge to move forward, which is why I'm here presenting this project.
Okay. I'll open up for public comment first. Anyone in the public who wishes to speak towards the RDA at 20 Walnut Street, Squam Rock Land Trust, may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen, or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 10 attendees and there are no hands up.
And we'll go on to commissioner roll call comments.
Member Charpentier.
I'm assuming there are no trees coming down with this project. Maybe you can confirm that.
Actually, we are hoping to take down some Norway maples. Mostly, actually all of them are over on the more southern side. They seem to have creeped in from the edge towards the buffer zone and the wetland area, which is called, Audubon calls it the wooded swamp.
How many trees are coming down?
Well, we counted, and there are approximately 30 that are larger than 6 inches, and there are a lot of saplings, small saplings, that we would like to remove as part of this process.
Next.
Member Cook. Oh,
Are you, one I need to know, are you planning on doing any work in the water area?
On the coast?
On the coast?
No, we are not.
Okay, all of it's landwood. Then the only concern I have is what Linda just stated with the trees.
Water habitat.
I think the tree removal, especially that quantity, is gonna need some discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Member Materi.
No additional comments.
Member Bella.
Yeah, I am concerned with my other commissioners that is a lot of vegetation and a lot of habitat removed. I think you're gonna have to, in my opinion, look at that differently. That's a tremendous amount in a really sensitive area. So,
Right. I mean, this is not something that we're going to be doing in one fell swoop. I mean, first of all, we don't have the resources to do that. It's going to be an ongoing, over the years. So, my thought was, there's probably only going to be maybe 5 larger trees taken down at any one time, and we're fully aware that those trees need to be replaced by a 2-to-1 ratio. And we'd really like to start this process so that we can start planting these trees, because there's got to be something that can take up the space and recreate this large canopy. It's quite a large area, and in fact, when I went out to look at what needs to be removed, many of these are not within the woods itself. Many of the ones I'm talking to you about are in the buffer zone, and this is actually an open field area. So, I guess I was more pleased that within the actual woods, we only have 4 of these larger trees. The rest are as I said, in this more open field area, which is within the buffer zone. So, and our plan is not to fully, you know, go in and cut all of them down at once.
All right, you know, I would like, I think I'm going to need a supervised visit over there. Either with you or someone else to get a better understanding, because this is you might have a plan in place which we can review at that time in more detail on the ground, literally. But I am concerned myself anyways, with the amount of vegetation and exactly what you need to get out, what you don't need to get out. So I don't know if other commissioners want to join me, but Chuck, if you could work with, I know I'm going to pronounce your name wrong, Erica. If we could schedule something with them to walk the site, I'd be interested to see this and understand it a little better on the ground.
I'd be happy to do that.
So that means probably we're going to have other commissioners make a couple of comments probably. After that, we're going to continue to the next meeting because we're not going to be able to resolve this in one meeting, I don't think. Okay?
Okay, is there any other questions that you'd like to ask me or any other issues that?
Commissioners, anything else to add at this time?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see the plan where these trees are and what the time period is that they're coming down. That's number one. Number two, I guess the other question that I have is, what is the purpose of this? What is the actual intent of the land once you've done this? Is this preparation for development?
Absolutely not. The trust was formed specifically for the purpose of leaving it undeveloped. And so that is part of the mandate of the trust. And the reason we are doing it is because we have realized that, like many open spaces that have been left unmanaged, there has been a proliferation of such invasive species as Norway maples, and they become a problem because they outcompete the better or the more native species. And so what we're trying to do is actually, as a community, be very responsible and to react and do something positive for the land. So that's where this comes from. But no, there will never be anything developed on this land.
Is there a certified arborist working on this project with you?
Not at present. As I said, we've been working with Audubon on this project. And if we were to start removing trees, as I mentioned in my proposal, we would be going through a certified arborist for sure.
Well, I think we need a lot. I agree with Commissioner Gullo. We need a lot more information on this.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Cook. Yeah, because one of the things that I would like to see is, you know, even if it's going to be over a number of years, you know, for example, say only X number of trees would be cut down and replaced in the same period of time. But the other thing is we need to know, you say tree removal. Typically, we like to allow you to, cut to the ground, but leave the stumps.
Right, and I actually don't even think that our plan was to remove the trees at all. I was assuming that we were going to cut them and let them fall and rot.
Okay.
Okay, we need more discussion.
Well, in terms of what's in front of us, it's an RDA. I think, at least as relates to the BBW and the land subject to coastal storm flowage, that is work in activities in a resource area. I think we're leaning towards wanting more information. Maybe, what we do is make a positive determination. And, this probably qualifies as a, ecological restoration project. So, maybe they come back with a notice of intent and it's either for a limited ecological restoration project or a notice of intent for a restoration project or something like that. But I think, I don't see any way where this gets a negative determination, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely intent, is to restore, an ecological restoration.
Yeah, but I'm not sure you understand. A negative determination is positive. It's a little confusing, but the bottom line is, I think.
No, I do understand that. I know that what I'm asking you is to, negatively say, we don't need jurisdiction over this, if that's what you mean.
And I know I'm saying, we think you need we need more information, and I needed a minimum to see this and understand it better for myself. But you got a ways to go, I think, here, because that's a tremendous amount of forestry to remove. And even if it's done in stages, we have to understand those stages. And as Mr. Peter was saying, you actually may be in buffer zone. You are in buffer zones that are going to trigger some other issues. So I think a meeting on the field would do everybody wonders. So if Chuck could find the time with you to schedule something for us to come over and take a look, that'd be great.
And Chuck, could we hear from you on this?
Yeah, I think a site visit would be very helpful for you guys to see. Devin and I have been out there previously. I've been out there a couple times. It's a large area, so when she's, these numbers of trees might sound big, but for this large area, it's not that many trees compared to what the rest of the trees are that are native that are remaining. So the intent is to remove these non-native trees. Norway maples are very prolific. They really start to take over areas. And so I think a site visit by the commissioners, I think, would help you guys understand the scope of what they're proposing here. So yeah, I can definitely
okay, so
work them in your schedules and get something scheduled.
Should we open this up for public comment?
I can't hear you, Linda.
Did we open this up for public comment?
Yes.
Okay.
There's no hands up.
Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
So is the tree work specifically something that could be pulled out of the rest of the RDA and be a separate NOI?
I think you might have it mixed up a little bit. I don't know, but honestly, I think the next step still will be for us to see it on the ground, and then we can make it at the next meeting to determine whether this is an RDA, a notice of intent, whether or not you're in some buffers that you don't know you're in. I think that's the best way to go for all of us, just to understand what's going on here and what the plan is.
Okay, there's a lot more, work that we want to do. And I know you can't carte blanche say that this, give us a negative. I'm just asking for, in the future, would this be something that the other work that we're looking to do would be an RDA, and the work that we want to do regarding the Norway maples would be a separate NOI? That's what I'm asking.
Could be done. I mean, it might not, if we can get on the ground and talk about this and see that, you might not have to do that. But yeah, you can get it, say we have project A under an RDA and project B under a notice of intent. You might not have to do that. That's more work. That's why I'm saying, if you let us go see it.
Oh, absolutely. How do we organize that?
I'm just gonna send you an email with some dates and times, or you're gonna send him an email and he'll let you know our availability. We probably all won't make it, or only be a few of us probably, but at least enough of us can get there and understand exactly what the game, again, like Linda said, Commissioner, she brought it, she nailed it. We need to know what's going on here in detail for that amount of vegetation, that's all. whether it's
Right.
or not.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we're gonna
Thank you.
for 2 weeks right now. And then hopefully in 2 weeks, when you come back to see us, we all have a better understanding of what you want to do.
Do it. I just became a grandmother for the second time today, and I have a lot of babysitting duties, or will, in the next.
Well, you know,
all I'm saying is I don't know if 2 weeks is a good amount of time for me. Is there some way of putting it off for a bit longer than that?
That's fine, or you can get a surrogate to do it for you. I mean, have someone else step in and
Is there somebody from Mass Audubon that would want to guide us through the site?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can ask. Okay, so we should set the meeting for set it for 2 weeks, and then hopefully I can find someone else that could step in my place. Okay.
Before 2 weeks.
And if we can't schedule something within that time, we can always continue it again. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay,
All right.
great. Thank you.
Charpentier moves to continue RDA 1809 at 20 Walnut Street to the commission meeting of August 21st.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
We'll call Member Charpentier. Member Charpentier,
Yes?
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Terry,
Yes.
and Member Gall.
yes. Linda and Bill, can you take this? I'm gonna have to recuse.
Commissioner Sargent returns.
Okay.
Funny guy.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is NOI 028, no DEP number at 21 Wingashiek Road. Eric Hendrickson, installation of native vegetation, walkway, permeable patio, dog run, and retaining walls in coastal dune and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Cameron Frecker representing.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes?
Hi. Yes. My name is Cameron Frecker. I'm here with my colleague Lisa Bierman, representing the property of 21 Wingashiek Road, with the owners being Eric and Lindsay Henriksen. We don't have a NOI number from the DEP because it was hand delivered on Monday. So I'm not sure if they've had a full chance to look at everything yet.
Well, this will have to be, I think what we want you to do is to give us a brief description of what's going on. And it'll be continued anyways, because you don't have the DEP number.
Okay, fair enough. So this is the survey of what the current state of the property looked like before the house renovations. The house is the top one there, and this is our proposed plan to during the restoration project of the house, a company came in and degraded the dune, and so we that's our number one objective, is to restore the dune with natural vegetation, mostly beach grass, some chokecherry, and bayberry. And then we have other other landscape enhancements that we would like to do along with that.
Hi, this is Lisa Bierman. We are proposing some permeable paver patios, native vegetation all around the property, as well as with the focus on using permeable pavers and stepping stones for areas of entertainment and sitting. The remaining space is is native vegetation all throughout, as well as replacing a retaining wall that is falling apart at the front of the property. It's existing conditions, timber. And so we are replacing it in the pretty much the same location. We have provided details from an engineer for the walls, as well as details for the berm planting and permeable pavers that we are suggesting to use.
Okay. If that's the summary, then I will open this up to the public for comments.
We currently have 9 attendees and there are no hands up at this time.
Okay, then I guess we would need commissioner comments.
All right, Member Charpentier,
None at this time.
Member Cook,
I'd like to know what the current condition is in the, I'll say the front of the house, say facing the resource area. Is that all dune area that you planning on converting to patio? Basically, what are the existing conditions? And so I get a better understanding of the changes that you want to put in.
We can show you pictures.
Can I share my?
Why don't we go through all the commissioner comments and then you can deal with them
Okay.
at the end, okay? I think it's more efficient that way.
Member Sargent.
I'm wondering if there's going to be an increase in impervious surfaces, and I'd like a 2-year monitoring for the mortality of plantings.
Member Materi.
No comments.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Now
we-
you can,
Okay, so we would like to show you the existing conditions, which we have pictures of.
I can share
You
my
can share the screen.
to share the screen 3. Can people see
Pictures you want.
this one? Yep. Can people see these pictures?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So this the first ocean side of the residence, this is the current existing conditions. Obviously, you can see it's very sandy and eroding. This middle picture, degraded dune, is where the dune was kind of disturbed and vegetation was taken out of. And we are going to replace it with native vegetation and restore the dune to its natural environment. And then this is just another view of the property towards the front, looking towards the street. And then these photos, the one on the left is the timber wall we were speaking of that's in poor condition that needs to be replaced. And so we are replacing it with a stone wall that in that exact location. This is the existing gravel sand parking area that we're not doing anything to. And then this is just a view of the driveway side of the residence.
And then also the question regarding pervious versus impervious areas, where new pervious areas, permeable areas would be approximately 900 square feet. And we're considering the new wall would be impervious, that'd be 230 square feet. And as far as the 2-year monitoring of plants, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chuck, do you have any comments on this?
So we were out there on the site after some of the work in the front dune. So that portion, they're going to be restoring it. There's a lot of non-native vegetation in there. So the intent there is to, I think, restore it to all native beach grasses and other native plants. The wall, I don't know if they mentioned it's holding up the where the leach field is for the septic. So that wood retaining wall that's falling apart, it's functioning as kind of holding back the whole leach field for their septic system. So I think that's kind of an important thing to do there. And then there's the the permeable paver patios that they're putting in, and then all the additional vegetation. I think the previous iteration of this, the majority of the area is not within the resource area based on that delineation. So it's really just that front dune area that's actually within. The rest of it would be within the buffer zone.
Okay. And there's no issues here about armoring a coastal bank or anything?
I don't believe at this location, though.
Okay. So if there are no other questions, I guess we will continue this to the next meeting and see if the DEP number pops at that time.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Bill, do you want to make a motion?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry. Make a motion to move NOI 028, no DEP number, 21 Wingershik Road to the meeting of 8/21.
Commissioner Sargent seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier.
Yes.
Member Cook.
Yes.
Member Sargent.
Yes.
And Member Materi.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Commission.
All right. Is Rob going to rejoin us?
I went to bed.
You went to bed? You took a nap?
No.
Okay, you're on.
All right, I'm back.
Come on, blast through.
Next up, no DEP. No, we just did that. Notice of intent 0283012, 32 Riverside, Robert Taylor Trust, repairs to an existing seawall, installation of landscape boulder wall in riverfront area, coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and buffer zone to coastal resource area. Bill Manuel, Wetlands Land Management, representing.
Hi, good evening. Thought we'd never get here. So we do have a DEP file number 28-3012 with no comments from the DEP. However, I also do not have any comments from Division of Marine Fisheries, so we're going to have to continue the hearing for that reason. But I would like to just share my screen and look at the plan. It's virtually the same sort of plan that the commission might remember we did at 18 Riverside about a year ago. The existing wall along the waterfront was deteriorating. It's losing soil behind the upper side of the wall. It's, there's no filter fabric or anything. And so, you're getting sloughing and loss of soil going out through the wall. This particular reinforcement is basically stacked boulders. There are places along the wall where the owners have done some patchwork. They put in some CMU block and mortared that together in one little area right in here. But for the most part, it is a stacked boulder wall. Let me just zoom in a little bit here. This is the Mill River out here. And what we're going to do, we've had the extent of boulders survey located, so we know precisely where the toe of the rocks are. What we're going to do is stack these boulders, restack them at a sort of a 1-to-1 angle of repose. We're going to dig out behind the wall, and there's this kind of a standard detail. Dig out behind the wall, backfill with crushed stones wrapped in filter fabric. This is all dry set, so that will allow the water to come in and then go back out, but it will not drag the soil out with it. So I think the commission has seen this sort of repair on numerous sites around Gloucester. On the uphill side of the wall, we're going to put some salt tolerant grasses, in this case, switchgrass. It's got a very deep root system, and that should help stabilize the ground above the wall. Secondary part of this this project is sort of another one of these coastal resiliency projects. As of the last winter, the owner has seen tides come up over the wall here and higher than basically they've ever seen. I think that's common around Gloucester. People have seen sort of record-setting high tides. And so, as I said, a lot like 18 Riverside, we're going to do the secondary landscape wall. This is, again, it's a dry set wall. It's actually really, you should call it better, a line of boulders, because as if you look at the detail here, we're going to get large boulders about 18 inches big and set them side by side, set them in a bed of crushed stones encapsulated in filter fabric. You can see from the contours that the yard does slope down, and so we'll bring the grade up by about 18 inches and feather it back into existing grade behind this dry stack boulder wall. And that will take a little bit of the slope out of the rear yard. But more importantly, what it does is it just provides a little resiliency measure in the face of rising sea levels and higher tides and more frequent high tides. We don't know where it's going to go in the next 10, 20, 30 years, but we'd like to be prepared for it. And that's the purpose of this secondary wall here. They're going to have to come in basically across the front yard through this. This is an unconstructed way. This also is sloping, and in order to get machinery that can hoist boulders down there to set these boulders here, we're going to need to even this out a little bit. So they'll probably they'll have to bring in some temporary fill here. All of that will get moved at the end of the project, removed at the end of the project, and everything will be restored to grass. So that's essentially it. This is where they haul the float up during the off season, and this also is basically boulder stacked. It makes this little level platform. We're getting subsidence in that, so we're going to peel off the organics, the upper layer of organics, a foot or two, put some filter fabric down and backfill it with stone and resurface it. It's like a pea stone surface right now. So all of this is because we're seeing subsidence and we just need to take care of it, normal maintenance. I forgot to mention this little area here. There'll be some new steppers across the regraded portion of the lawn here, a couple of new granite steps, and then steppers down to the entrance to this existing wood pier, ramp, and float. So that's it.
Okay, so I'll start by opening up for public comment. Does anybody in the public wish to speak towards or against the project at 32 Riverside Road? May do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 6 attendees and there are no hands up.
Seeing none, hearing none, a closed public comment period. We'll move into roll call commissioner comments.
Member Charpentier.
Not at this time.
Member Cook.
No comments.
Member Gretel. Nope, sorry. Member Sargent.
Thank you. I'm wondering if any work's going to be done in the intertidal zone. And I didn't see any mention of a floating boom or sediment control. And obviously it needs DMF and shellfish comments. And I'm wondering if this wall already has a Chapter 91 permit or not. Thank you.
Member Terry.
My question was about Chapter 91 as well. And whether or not that permitting needs to be obtained before commencing this work.
Member Gullo.
No further comment. Okay, so you want to respond, Mr. Manuel?
Sure, no work is going to happen in the intertidal zone, all of that work, or no machinery. I mean, obviously they're restacking boulders in the intertidal, but everything happens from the upland side of the work zone. We can put sediment, we could put a floating boom there. On other projects, DMF has come back to me and said floating booms aren't necessarily effective in the intertidal zone. So we haven't shown it on this particular project, but we can show it. There is a Chapter 91 license, but it only covers the pier, ramp, and float. There's nothing, it doesn't say anything about the wall. The majority of it happens to occur above mean high water. And we're going to look at that very closely. If we can avoid having to do a Chapter 91 license, I think the owner would opt for that. So we're going to look at that closely, but obviously, just like with Ratcliffe Street, the order of conditions is the first step in any of that additional permitting, Chapter 91 or Army Corps of Engineers. And lastly, yes, we're waiting for DMF comments. And Chuck, if you would request comments from Shellfish, that would be helpful as well.
Yep, there you go.
So with that, then it sounds like we have to move to continue.
Yep.
2 weeks? 2 weeks?
2 weeks should be fine, yes.
Okay, Charpentier moves to continue NOI 028 3012 at 32 Riverside Street to the commission meeting of August 21st.
Commissioner Cook seconds?
Roll call, Member Charpentier.
Yes?
Member Cook.
Yes.
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Member Terry.
Yes.
And Member Villa.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Moving down the list, we are into certificates of compliance. We have RCOC 0282788 97 Coles Island Road. I'm not going to go through all these. Chuck, do you have any issues with any of these?
No, they're all kind of part of the same project. It's just the portions of the property are just within the buffer zone to the ACEC, so they're not jurisdictional to the Wetlands Protection Act. They're just only jurisdictional to the GWO. And there's the main house and the guest house, and then also the pier and float. Those are the pier and float are the ones that are actually under the actual NOI. So, but all of those look good. All the items look good.
Okay, can we move in mass? We don't have to call them all out, do we? It's up to you.
Yep, we'll just go, call them out and we'll vote once. Charpentier moves to approve RCOC 0282788 at 97 Coles Island Road, GWO 2021-002 at 89 Coles Island Road, and GWO 2021-003 at 97 Coles Island Road.
Commissioner Cook seconds?
Roll call, Member Charpentier.
Yes?
Member Cook.
Yes.
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Member Terry.
Yes.
And Member Villa.
Yes. All right. So with certificates of compliance, now we're back into violations. EO 24-004 6 Stanwood Point. Mary Rimmer Environmental LLC represent.
Hello, everyone. Mary Rimmer Environmental, the record, and I'm just providing you with an update on the information that was submitted between the last meeting and now. We were waiting for the survey to be completed. That has been done, and I can go over it if you'd like. We did submit a restoration plan update dated August 5th, and I can go over that as well, or I can just answer your specific questions. I know it's late, so whatever you'd prefer is fine.
Why don't we start with why don't we do one at a time? Why don't we start with the enforcement order 24-04 6 Stanwood Point? Start with that one and update us on that, and we'll chime in if we see fit.
Okay, so I'll share my screen. This is the restoration plan that I submitted to you. This shows what the existing conditions were as of June 21st. And you can, I went over this the last meeting, there was encroachment over their building area with the native grasses. So that's telling me the elevation is looking pretty good with that sand area there. We went over the the material that was found there in the depths at the last meeting. And the only change that I've made is keying in on this high marsh elder here. I incorporated a buffer of the marsh elder along the upland edge. It's still part of the salt marsh, but it will provide a physical barrier. This is proposed in lieu of a fence. We can certainly provide a fence if you'd like, but this was my suggestion. And you can see here, so again, the building, there was dock storage right next to the building here. And then if I pull up the plan that was submitted, you can see the building outline here. You can see the existing grass inside the building outline here. And there's some bare areas here because if you notice from the photograph before, there was dock storage right alongside the building. So this area was never particularly well vegetated. So we're proposing to extend the vegetation into the bare area. This is a big rock right here, but the vegetation is proposed to extend beyond the building, even though it wasn't disturbed as part of this construction. I just think it'd be a good idea to extend that. So this would be an area that would be planted with marsh elders mixed with switchgrass. It's at the upper end of the tolerances. We keyed the restoration to the salt marsh on either side. So you can see there's a 5 elevation here that's existing, and the 6 elevation here that's existing. That's consistent with what we found in the original survey. And this is actually elevation 5.4. And then this is like a 5.5 essentially right here. So anything above 5.5, we propose to plant with the high marsh elders, again, to provide that barrier. And then below that would be the Disticus spicata, which would be the early colonizer in the high marsh. Along the edges, there is some Spartina ultimiflora also mixed in with the Disticus that's growing in there now. So I think based on the elevations that we're seeing here, that's consistent with what we need to have for restoring the marsh in this area. Interestingly, the elevations here, 9, 8, 7 are actually lower than what was shown previously. So there's been some erosion, or their survey wasn't off, because I looked at the original existing conditions plan, and this was like elevation 8.5 or so in the existing conditions plan. So we're actually lower than what it was there, but still within the range of being able to plant. And so it looks very consistent with the elevations, like I said, on either side of it. And I guess I'll let you ask questions at this point.
Okay, thank you for that update. Commissioners, anything to add to that? Questions on that update? I think it was pretty thorough. Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you for that, Mary. You mentioned that some of the area started to reestablish itself with vegetation. I'm curious if that was the Disticus, Patens, or something else. And I'm all in favor of the marsh elder or the high tide bush, but I also think that you need to split rail fence because people could step on that vegetation. Thank you.
Any other commissioners have any questions, comments? All right, we'll move on to the next one, which is 4 Stanwood Point. River Environmental Representative.
Yeah, I don't know if is there anything you want to resolve on this? Are we?
I don't know. Chuck, what do you think? Do you need more information on this? Anything to add?
Well, I mean, I guess, is the commission okay with what their proposed plan is? And then, what's the next, what's the next time that we would want them to report back to us, or, that sort of thing? I did also have a question too, if there's any follow-up on the 401 permit.
No, I have not been able to reach anyone on the 401 issue. So there's no follow-up on that.
All right. I guess
I could
don't think there's anything else to add.
I could
Peter?
respond to Mr. Sargent's comments about the grass. That was a combination of Alterniflora and Distichus. It's kind of a combination right there. It's low or lower. So that's what's coming in right now. I expect it'll change as it matures.
But I want to be clear, Ms. Rimmer, one thing Ms. Sargent wants still, and I believe everybody here, is we still need that split rail fence. That's
Right.
it.
Okay, well, we can add that to the plan.
All right.
I don't know how far, just on this lot 3, or lot 6, whatever it is. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Does the commission want to approve their plan, or do you still want to see additional changes? That
This was a little, I think we should keep it on, I mean, this is me speaking, but I think we should keep it on the agenda for at least another 2 weeks to have another update, you know? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, do you want to have an update in 2 weeks, or do you want to go like into September? There's been some good growth patterns. Should we have a extended period of time, say a month and a half to 2 months, and then come back with some pictures and see how much further it's gone?
Does that make more sense?
Well, I still think if we want to approve their proposed plan, that should be voted on.
Right.
I do think that it will take a very long time for it all to revegetate on its own. Just because of the way marsh grass grows slowly. So it's going to continue to look like sand flat unless it's replanted.
I appreciate your honesty. So
Yeah.
Chuck, you're saying, what's your comfort level? Do you think we should vote on it or should we wait?
Well, I think if you want them to start moving on the planting, that it should be voted on. So that, we have an approved plan, but if there's issues that you have with that plan, or if you want more time to review it, that's your call.
This is for 6 Stanwood?
Yes.
So then again, I hear Chuck, and I think, why don't we give it another cycle? Let's see where we're at in 2 weeks. I'd like to look at a little more of the plan, and then maybe at that point we can vote on it in 2 weeks. Does that sound acceptable?
That's fine.
Chuck?
But yeah, I mean, whatever's whatever the commission would like. I guess, did you have an idea of when plantings could be attained and what the timeline might look like?
Yeah, I was told they have availability. They need a 2-week window from when they're ordered. So we won't order them until we get the green light from you, and 2 weeks from them. Then now we're going to be entering into, it's going to be harder to get them because we're going to be later in the season. So they may not be available until spring if we wait too much longer.
Well, can we vote to approve the plan as presented? And that will allow them to move forward and then have them come back in 6 weeks.
Well, what are we waiting on the plan that is an issue?
I think site plan is one, right? Accurate.
I think the inclusion of the split rail fence, on the presented plan. And I think that would be it.
Uh-oh, we have a celebrity sighting.
I'm here, Rob.
Well, I personally would like to see the planting get started as soon as we can, and I wouldn't want it to miss the winter and go into the spring if we took too long. So I'm fine with voting and approving the plan with the condition that the split rail fence gets added to it.
All right. That happened.
I like that.
Okay.
And I guess the other question I did have, it was hard to tell from the diagram exactly where these areas are, but I was curious. I was out there at the Shellfish Constable a couple weeks back, and some of her concern was erosion coming down in this area and kind of starting to smother some of the areas that there's some active plant activity. I was just curious some of this area was going to be included in that vegetation plan, or if it was only going to be in the area that the removed building was.
Yes, we can certainly oversee the coastal seed mix, any disturbed area. That's part of the restoration plan. So that's on that lot. Some of what you showed was on a different lot, but yes, down where that landing is. But yes, anything on that lot 3A, we can certainly oversee it with a coastal seed mix.
Okay. So we're in agreement to approve the project?
Yes.
So to be approving the planting plan. This is an enforcement order, so we're not approving a project. We're just approving them to get started on their planting.
Got it.
So we need to make a motion on this?
Sure.
Okay, Charpentier moves to approve the planting plan for EO 24-04 6 Stanwood Point with the aforementioned condition of adding a split rail fence.
Correct.
Commissioner Cook seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier.
Yes.
Member Cook.
Yes.
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Member Terry.
Yes.
And Member Bello.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much, and we'll keep you posted.
everybody.
Thank you.
And is there a date that we'd want them to come back to update us on when
How
this
about a
will be?
month? How about a month?
A month of 6 weeks, because it's going to take 2 weeks to get the plantings.
Oh, yeah, that's right. 6
So
weeks. End of
say 6
September.
weeks.
Can we have just a written notice to Chuck that the plantings have arrived and planting has started, and
yes,
and then
certainly.
maybe a month after that to monitor whether or not, I mean, how long will it take to know whether or not they're taking or they're having trouble?
Probably, I would think like within 30 days.
Okay. Let's come back 6 weeks then. That would be 2 weeks to order the plantings, and then 30 days after that to have an update on sort of how initial planting went.
All right.
Sounds good.
So it'll be the meeting of September 18th.
Yeah, I believe so. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a month.
And I think you had the other enforcement,
The other,
adjacent lot, and that was number 4. Is it 4?
Yep.
4 Stanwood Point.
Was there an enforcement order on that?
No.
There's not enforcement, just a notice of violation.
Yep.
There's an expired order of conditions.
Right, and there's been no work that's been done, and no work will be done. We were at the last meeting, we had hoped that the permit extension that I'd mentioned would save the day and we'd be able to continue work. It's now it didn't pass, but it is expected to be brought again. So we would like that to be continued as well for another couple of weeks. So, or maybe at the same.
Do it at the same time.
4 weeks from now to see if there's any change. And then during that time, I can determine from the applicant if they want to file for the remaining work.
okay with that. Commissioners, any questions with that?
No
That's
problem.
good.
No problem with me.
Okay, good.
So you don't have to.
September 4th.
That's fine.
We're not releasing, are we? Right.
No.
Okay.
We just can't do any work, so there's kind of a stop work on it.
Anything else, commissioners, to add to this comment, question? Line of
Nope.
question?
Nope, let's go to the next one.
All right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
And yeah, there are no other updates on the others at this point. 14 Fort Hill, they're still trying to work out with the abutter what is going to be done on the portion of their property that also had damage to the plants. 227 Atlantic Road, we were waiting to receive the proposed plan for the buffer zone area that several of us were out there looking at during the site visit. So that hopefully should be coming. And the owner of 73 Winger Chic, I guess previously in discussions with Devin, she was the one that had been in contact with him. He had let her know that he was not going to be available until the September 4th meeting to appear. So he's also said that he's no longer using the ATV on his path since he's received that notice of violation. So
that's good. He acknowledges.
Wasn't there a planting plan submitted for a monitoring update for 14 Fort Hill?
There was a plan that they submitted, but if it's the one that's on the neighboring property, there's been no resolution with the neighbor yet on that.
Okay, are we taking the neighbors differently from sort of the violation on the?
They'd come previously. I believe we had approved their planting plan on their parcel.
Right.
So the remaining issue is resolution with the neighbor for that other parcel. So once they've resolved that and their sign off on both ends, they will come back and present that to you to make sure the commission's on board.
Good. One last important thing, Chuck. How are we doing finding you assistants?
So it was posted internally through the end of last month, and now it's been posted externally. So we will.
Nibbles yet? No.
Pardon?
Nibbles yet? Nobody's.
We've had a couple of resumes come in, so we're just kind of waiting to see what see what we get in the next little bit here, and hopefully start interviewing. So.
Okay, you're holding up though, okay? Yeah.
So far, yeah. As far as I can tell.
You yelled at me a few times tonight, so I think it's getting to you. I don't know.
You had it coming.
Likely true. All right, everybody good?
Yep. Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Roll call. Member Sherman here.
Yes.
Member Cook.
Yes.
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Member Terry.
Yes.
Member Gullah.
Yes.
And Member Jackson.
Yes. It was nice seeing you all.
Night, everyone.
Cameo appearance. Cameo.
Everybody be safe, be well. Good night.
Hi, everyone.